We're live in Texas, and Kyle Busch has won 2 of the last 4 races. Of course, last year's winner at Talladega, the longest track on the circuit, at Talladega Super Speedway, celebrating 40 years of some of the most exciting racing. You can be part of the action. The ARCA rematch, the Nationwide, the Sprint Cup Series, April 24th through the 26th. Great seats still available. It's a great weekend. They have the best deal in 40 years, a $40 ticket for Sunday's Sprint Cup race. Call 877-GO-TO-DEGA or log on to www.TalladagaSuperspeedway.com for more details, and we hope to see you at the races. As we get ready for this race here, Jeff, what's on the Verizon checklist?
You talking to me or Texas?
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Okay. Now, today, Chris, when you think about coming here to Texas, one of the things we're going to be worried about has got to be watching the weather. That's not just no rain, folks. Yeah. Don't worry about that.
The wind.
But the wind, the track conditions themselves are so different than what we've seen all week long, and these guys practicing, that could be a factor. Number 2, when you come to a 500-mile, we've seen so far this year, we've had a lot of engine woes, and you're going to have a lot of speed here. 500 miles can be real hard on these engines, so you got to watch out what could be happening there. And last but not least, you got to be watching pit road. We saw yesterday in the Nationwide Series race, a lot of guys got caught entering this place. You're carrying so much speed around that corner, and that little yellow line where you see the orange cone can get you in trouble real quick.
All right, you talk about the engines. Now, Ford has won 9 Texas races, but last year we had 5 DNFs in this race. So it's not just really a Ford or Roush Fenway problem this year.
No, they've all had issues so far. A Toyota, Chevrolet, even the Dodge folks.
So who's corrected it for today, or do you know?
You talk to the guys, everybody believes they have.
Okay.
That's going to be the key thing. They think they can go 500 miles. It'll be interesting to see if they've got it figured out.
And in terms of what can a crew chief do to help his driver with pit road, another one of your items on your checklist?
You got to be talking to him coming down the back straightaway. Don't get caught speeding in. Touch your brakes. Heat your brakes up. That's one of the key things they're not doing, to get enough heat in the brakes.
And the wind gust up to 35 miles per hour, but if you heard Carl Edwards say earlier, it's changing direction, so that will create an important adjustment during the race as we head down trackside.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your Grand Marshal and Samsung Mobile Gentlemen Start Your Engines contest finalist, Mark Freddy, as he delivers the most famous words in motorsports.
Gentlemen, start your engine!
And we're getting ready to go 500 miles here at the Great American Speedway. Carl Edwards has won the last few. David Rudiman on the pole. Jeff Gordon starting up front. He was last in last year's race, but he's your points leader.
Not afraid to go fast. You can pull off a win here today.
On the other hand, Kyle Busch hasn't won a race in about 19 hours.
It hadn't been long. But I love going into this race here because it's a very unpredictable race. And the unknowns of this 500-mile race, like some guys starting up in the top 10, Paul Menard and Joey Logano starting up there. But speaking of gunslinging, when I look at the fastest cars in practice yesterday in those 2 sessions, it's a continuation of Martinsville. Jimmy Johnson and that number 11 car, they seem to have the best cars on the long runs. But an operation that's trying to stop a downhill slide is Roush Fenway. The 2 short tracks, a total disaster. Matt Kenseth qualified 3rd, and don't forget Carl Edwards, the man that won 9 races in 2008, trying to get 3 in a row. So Roush Fenway, they want to put a halt to the fact that the 2 best cars was the 48 and the 11.
All right, 2 to go before we go green. Let's have a look at the starting lineup for today's race. Dave Blaney took the last qualifying spot as 5 drivers went home. He got that last spot by 12 1/1000ths of a second over Joe Nemechek. Eric Almirola trying to find funding to continue on in the season. And Darrell mentioned Elliott Sadler. Braz Keselowski in a 5th Hendrick car, and Max Pappas in a Michael Waltrip Toyota. Bill Elliott for the Wood Brothers. They're back, and there's Reed Sorensen driving for Richard Petty. Casey Mears for Richard Childress. Jamie McMurray strong in practice in his Ford. Regan Smith has finished every Cup race he's ever started. There with Michael Waltrip, row 17. Martin Truex Jr., David Stremme in the 16th row. And as you look at the rest of our starting lineup, Darrell, let's get a word with our pole sitter.
And David Rudiman, it's a DW. Got a copy, buddy?
Hey, DW, what's going on?
Brother, it's time. It's time to pick up that first win. You were fast in practice. You're on the pole. What do you think, man? Can you pull it off today?
I think we got as good a chance as we ever had to do one of these deals. We've had a great air and string machine since we've unloaded. Toyota's given us great horsepower here. And Rodney Childers and the guys are doing a great job. So, man, I think today's as good as any other day, I think. What do you think?
Well, you got the best starting spot in the house, and, you know, if you can keep it there all day, I'd love to see you win one, man. You deserve it. Just hammer down, put on a good show, and bring that thing home, put her in victory circle. What do you say?
All right, buddy, we're going to do our best. Appreciate everything, and thank you for giving me my chance there, boss. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. You're a good man, and good luck.
It was Darrell that took David Rudiman off of the short tracks and into what was then the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Kyle Busch won yesterday. He beat Tony Stewart. They finished 1-2 in the nationwide race. Casey Kane's the only driver ever to win here from the pole. Matt Kenseth usually starts out back. There's two of those Roush cars on row 2. Watch out for Matt today. Jeff Gordon, that long victory drought, will that be broken today as he shares the front row for the second week in a row, this time with David Rudiman. Make it a great race day with the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. And here are FedEx keys to the race.
Let's take a look at the trends or the patterns that a crew chief would look at, especially in the last 8 spring races, which has been NASCAR on Fox. The first caution, normally around lap 22, only once in the past 8 years has it come after lap 30. The longest green flag run, average of 96 laps. We always have a minimum of 1 green flag set of pit stops. Fuel run here is about 54 to 58 laps. The last caution, this race is 334 laps, around lap 305. Last year we got a caution with 3 laps to go that bunched them up. This is a tough race to stay on the lead lap. The average, even with the free pass, over the last 8 races, an average of 14 cars. Only twice more than 15 cars were on the lead lap at the end of the race.
Thanks, Larry. Now make it a great race day with the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager.
A lot of guys in the garage area are thanking Larry for doing all this because now they don't have to.
I do a lot of legwork for them.
That's right.
Get some late stories from Pit Road. Matt Yoakum.
Mike, earlier Carl Edwards talked about the dramatic change in weather today, the temperature 54 degrees, but crew chiefs like Chad Knaus, that makes them want to utilize all the technology they have in their arsenal, even pagers that give them up-to-the-minute weather conditions as far as wind gusts. The latest measurement here, 10 miles per hour. That's what they have going on here on pit road. And Dick Berggren, a little farther down pit road, it all goes down to what the driver computes back to his crew chief from the seat.
Yeah, and several of the drivers told me this morning, Matt, that a wind this strong will pick the car up and toss it around, maybe even shove it into a corner deeper than they want to go. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. told me that he's not at all concerned about the wind. Jr. today starts in the 20th spot. His fans hoping he's finishing first. Mike?
Ready to race in Texas. This will be the 26th race in what's now the Sprint Cup Series in the great state of Texas.
Here you see 500 miles, 334 laps, pit road speed 45 miles per hour. The pit window for Sunoco race fuel 54 to 58 laps. DW, she may not be the biggest, but she's the baddest and the fastest. Reach up there and pull those belts tight one more time.
Yeehaw! Boogity, boogity, boogity! Let's go racing, boys!
Rudiman packs it into turn 3. Here comes Kenseth on the bottom. David Rudiman trying to lead that first lap.
I tell you, though, he is in a hole right there with a 17 up his back bumper and a 24 on his outside. That makes that car hard to handle.
What Matt Kenseth is doing, he's easing it into the corner. He's nailing that throttle, and he gets such a run like right there off the corner.
Jeff Gordon led the first lap. He led the first pile of laps at Martinsville last week. He wants to seal the deal and lead the last lap. Hasn't been able to do it in quite a while.
I don't really like David Rudiman being pinned down on the bottom like that. You get that arrow push, believe it or not, up off the corner. Right now you can do that with fresh tires, but you can't do that long.
Paul Menard has moved up a spot to 4th behind Kenseth. David Reagan 5th. Kyle Busch In 6th, Tony Stewart. Here's Casey Kane in 8th with Jimmy Johnson.
And I think the reason David was fighting so hard with Jeff Gordon, he wanted to lead that first lap bad, but he saw that it wasn't going to work, so he's falling in line now, and Gordon is scooting away.
I just think the new tire combination that we're running a lot of places in 2009, a left side tire that has a lot more grip. Steve Letarte, Jeff Gordon's crew chief, told me, said Jeff Gordon loves the feel of that tire. It helps him feel the front end.
Robbie Gordon slid up the racetrack, but he did manage to gather it back in. He almost slid up right in front of the whole second half of the field.
Would you like to see how that happened and why that happened?
I sure would.
He had a little bit of help. Watch these two guys right here. The 2 car and the 07 car.
Wow.
Excuse me, coming through.
Now remember, that's happening at about 170 miles per hour right there in the middle of the corner.
And just remember, that car, the 2 car, he was bad fast at Atlanta. He led 3/4 of the race. Very similar racetrack. I think he's in a hurry to get to the front.
And he was bad frustrated last week on the radio. And with their lack of progress.
And he had a great practice. He was second quick in practice, had a bad qualifying run. I believe that car is better than it qualified for sure.
Tell you what, Greg Biffle, he's been on the move. He started back in the 14th position. He's now moved up to 13th. He got a little bit high up the racetrack. Definitely a racetrack Greg Biffle has won at, a track that he likes.
When you can get grip up high off a turn 2, it makes you look like you got an afterburner going down that back straightaway. You get off a turn 2 with so much speed when you can run that high line.
What you need is doing good.
Right behind him. I don't know if I'd bet on Carl Edwards today, but I surely would not bet against him. He swept the 2 Texas races last year, practiced well. Edwards started 13th. That's where he's running.
That was a prime example of having to get out of the throttle off the corner and how much it hurts you all the way down the straightaway.
Well, I think it won't take long, Larry, until these guys will be venturing up around the top of this racetrack. There's just so much more momentum there. You can carry so much more speed off the turns. It gets rid of some of that dreaded push that you have off of 2 and off of 4 when you can run that high line.
For the lead, here comes Rudeman back straightaway. He ran Jeff Gordon down, drops to the inside, and will try to lead his first lap of the day right here. Steve Burns.
And Mike, before the race, David Rudeman said that in practice yesterday, they made some changes to that race car that actually made it better on the longer run. So not a surprise that Rudeman has gone back by the 24.
Well, sometimes, the tire pressures are pretty low when you start a race here. You give those pressures a chance to come up, and that changes the car dramatically. But you think that Jeff Gordon might be saying, I have seen this act way too many times.
Well, he just moved to the outside to let Matt Kenseth go. And Kenseth's been better on the high groove than on the bottom, and yet he moved to the inside to pass Gordon for second.
Yeah, I'm really not concerned about Kenseth so much. I believe Jeff Gordon is going backwards.
I tell you, a car I'm impressed with. I know we're early in the race. We're only at lap 10. We talked about him being an unknown. Is that car right there, the 98 car of Paul Menard? Had a great run in the Nationwide Series race yesterday, qualified 3rd, finished 5th. His crew told me it's amazing how much bounce he has in his step when he has a good race on Saturday coming into Sunday's race. But I think his qualifying run Friday for this race helped a ton too.
Boy, these long races, 500 miles, what you have to really focus on as a driver like Paul is finishing this race. Get yourself in a position, run good, and be around at the finish. Give yourself a chance to win.
9th place battle, Marcus Ambrose. The Aussie moving up from 11th. You see him right behind Casey Kane.
And his teammate is leading the race. Got to believe they've shared some information. That car looks like it's getting better as we go into the race, a few laps.
So, guys, I believe the car on the move, we're looking at him at the top of the racetrack there. We talked about him just a minute ago. Greg Biffle in that 16 car, slowly but surely picking them off one at a time.
What you hope for as a driver when they drop the green flag, that your car will handle the way it needs to so you can move forward, so you don't have to give up spots and lose track position.
Battle resumed from yesterday. Kyle Busch, who won the nationwide race, Tony Stewart driving Kevin Harvick's car, finished 2nd. They are now running 6th and 7th.
I don't know what's happened to the 24, but something has, Krista.
loose, Daryl. That is what Jeff just got on the radio on lap 8 and said his car is extremely loose. And, you know, no one needs to remind Jeff Gordon that this is one of only 2 tracks he hasn't won. He said everyone does the reminding for him. He said he has answered that question 10 to 15 times since he's been here at Texas this weekend.
And, Daryl, that's probably one reason he's moved up the racetrack. He can't turn the steering wheel because it's loose.
Yeah, you just got to find a bigger circle to run in, and that happens to be up around the top.
Paul Menard chases Jeff Gordon for third, while pole sitter David Rudiman leads here in Texas.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing is sponsored by DirecTV. If you call yourself a sports fan, you got to get DirecTV. By Sprint, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. By Aflac. Ask about it at work. And by Toyota. Moving forward.
18 laps complete. Pole sitter David Rudiman leading Matt Kenseth and Paul Menard, a Toyota and 2 Fords at the front of the field here in Texas in the early going. Carl Edwards has had such success here at Texas Motor Speedway. Today's Aflac trivia question. Who is the only other driver to win 3 Cup races in Texas?
Now, that's a trick question. You can't think about Texas Motor Speedway alone. You have to think about the state of Texas.
Do you want to just give them the answer?
No.
Larry, I think they knew it was a trick question.
I sat up here before the show and scratched my head for 10 minutes looking at that card.
We'll give you a little while. We'll help you a little more. There have been not 1, but 3 racetracks in Texas to host races in what is now the Sprint Cup Series.
I've given them all the help I'm going to give them.
That's all I'm giving. You got a branding iron this fire?
Not now.
He's just dying to dive in on this one.
Jeff Gordon has his hands full.
I believe his teammate, the winner from Martinsville, Jimmy Johnson in the 48 car, I think that car is starting to fall off just a little bit. He was moving forward. He actually lost a spot, but I've been watching the lap times, and he's about 3 or 4 tenths off of the leader, David Rudiman, right now.
It's not unusual to start this race and have the car too loose because you know these guys, the crew chiefs, the smart guys know it's going to tighten up. They just got to have it where the driver can hang on to it until, Larry, it comes to you.
One driver moving in the other direction, forward, is Kurt Busch. Dick Berggren?
Yeah, he sure is, Mike. Kurt Busch started in the 28th position, and he's already worked himself up to the 19th spot. So he is having a much better day here than he had last weekend at Martinsville. They came with a car different from the car that won in Atlanta, dominated the race at Atlanta, but they have moved the setup on Busch's car today to that Atlanta setup, and it obviously suits him quite well.
I agree, Doc. I'm watching that car because I just remember how dominant he was at Atlanta. When they said they didn't bring the same car, that concerned me. But that car right now looks exactly like that car that Atlanta did 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's getting high in the turns and really getting off well.
At the other end of the scale, Kevin Harvick started 17th. Larry, he's now down to 31st.
Yeah, I've been watching this car, and he almost got ran over on the front straightaway a while ago. And right now, the Richard Childress cars, they only have 1 car in the top 20, and that's Jeff Burton in 20th. But Krista, the 29, like some other cars, starting to fall back.
Absolutely, Larry Mack. Right now, Kevin Harvick said his car is sideways all the way through the corners, and then off the corners, he cannot get it to turn down the straightaway.
Well, ideally, you'd like to get a caution early enough to make the adjustment. Let's see what this 29.
This is what we've been talking about. He is so slow off the corner. Look at Denny Hamlin, the 11 car. You could see how loose the 29 was there, and Denny Hamlin almost gets in the back of him. Darrell, I'm going to go back to something you said. You said that a lot of people anticipated this track's going to tighten up as rubber gets down. I just think, as we have seen time and time again, this car doesn't get tighter, and maybe this softer left side tire I talked about may not let them get tighter. They may actually get looser as you get into a run.
You know, you rung a bell. You're exactly right. I've heard that a number of times about this car, anticipating it to change, and it doesn't go in the direction you think it's going to.
Another fella going in the right direction, Denny Hamlin, just passed his young teammate Joey Logano. Logano's the only rookie contender in the race. Scott Speed failed to qualify. Logano started 10th. He's now 17th. Hamlin started 22nd. He has gained 6 positions.
And as I mentioned at the top of the show, that 11 car was good on long runs yesterday. He may have not had the fastest race car, but he was good on the long runs.
Well, in practice, he was in the top 3 in all the major categories we look at. Top 3 in fastest individual lap, 5 consecutive lap average. Steve, and he was fastest of the drivers that ran 10 consecutive laps for average.
Mike, he was, and his crew chief, Mike Ford, said the biggest difference of Denny Hamlin this year over last, he's much more involved and integrated in the team. He said, quite frankly, we're disappointed that we haven't won every race this year.
And I think it's a little bit of the psyche that a driver gets into. Late in a race, how many times have we seen Hamlin have trouble and not win races he dominated? Last Sunday, he had that race won, and it got away from him. And sometimes that works on you when you get down near the end of the race. You look in your mirror or you look around and you say, well, wonder what's going to happen this week.
He's finished second the last 2 weeks.
You saw Tony Stewart, who just moved up to 3rd. Here's the 12th place battle. Dale Earnhardt Jr. Not much of a battle anymore. Has started 20th, and he has climbed 8 positions, while Jimmy Johnson, Matt, has dropped 4.
And Texas, Mike, typically a great place for Jimmy Johnson. The past 5 races, 3 times he has finished second or better. His biggest description of how his race car is handling the Chad Knaxis is, I just get to the center of the corner and I just have to put so much wheel into it. We're halfway through the first run already, computing what changes they're going to make to this car on their first stop.
Dave Blaney has made a stop.
Another stop. That's second or third one.
Okay. David Rudiman, the pole sitter, has led all but 7 laps so far. He has a 2.5 second lead on Matt Kenseth, 30 laps into the Samsung 500.
You're watching NASCAR on Fox.
David Rudiman has led 29 of 36 laps so far. Jeff Gordon was out front for the first 7. Here in Texas. Okay, our Trick. Yeah, Trick the Duck. Today's Aflac trivia question. Carl Edwards has won 3 races here. There was one race at Myers Speedway in Houston, Texas, 1971, a half-mile paved oval. Bobby Allison started from the pole, led 253 of the 300 laps to win it. Texas World Speedway, where we ran 8 Cup races from 1969 to 1981, a 2-mile high bank oval in College Station. And Richard Petty won in December of 71, June of 72, and 3. Darrell won a race at Texas World Speedway in 1979, passed some brash young rookie to win it.
Yep.
Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, we did. That was one of I love Texas Motor Speedway. I mean, I love this place right here. The last time they worked on this place, they really made it fun to drive.
You know, Mike, we're 38 laps into this race. Just look at the speeds of David Rudiman. Over 180 miles an hour getting off into turn 1. The slowest speed, about 146, and we are well into a run where these tires are really starting to slide around.
See, I see some
is coming.
I see some ugly cars off turn 4, though. Holy cow, they turned them sideways. When you can read the numbers from up here on the right side, it's getting pretty sideways.
But, Mike, I think 2 things is happening. I think maybe Matt Kenseth, the 17, is a little better than Rudiman right now. Rudiman has been catching the lap cars absolutely in the worst place you can catch them, right in the corner, just as he caught Bill Elliott and Regan Smith in that 78 and 3 and 4.
Matt, what is Matt Kenseth saying about his car?
One of the biggest factors, Mike, the weather. Talking about the wind, very tricky, especially entering turn 1. He says the car is free in. His biggest issue after that, though, a little low on rear grip, but he feels like the wind is causing a lot of his issues.
Well, I think David would be a really, really cautious through traffic, though. Here he is. He's leading the race, and you heard him say when I talked to him, this is the best chance they've had yet to win one of these things. I think he's going to play it a little conservative, particularly working the traffic.
Been watching David Rudiman's teammate here, Marcos Ambrose, in that 47 car, started just outside the top 10. He has now moved up to the 7th position.
Jeff?
Guys, the thing that impressed me about Marcus Ambrose is not only his personality, but the way he's been received by one of his owners, Brad Daugherty. I mean, the cool thing about it, Brad said that right now, Marcus, we're having to kind of rein this guy back. He believes he can go up there and win a race. We've got to be careful, though, Jeff, as he told me. We want to make sure we get good, solid finishes so we can stay up in the points and be in position to make sure we don't have to worry about that, because we already know that if we make mistakes, if he gets caught up in a wreck, we lose an engine, we could fall out of this comfort zone. But he is so high on this young man, it's unbelievable. He is really believing that Marcus Ambrose can get a win for this team this year.
Steve Burns.
Mike, Marcus Ambrose just telling his crew, I can't get the left side down off the corner. The more I hit the gas, the tighter the car gets.
Now let's clarify. Marcus' car is owned by Tad Geschecter and Brad Daugherty, the NBA 5-time All-Star. However, it's run out of Michael Waltrip Racing with equipment from that team, and that's why he considers himself a teammate to Michael and David Rudiman.
Yeah, I think actually Rob Kaufman, one of Michael's partners, might be even listed as owner on that 47 car.
And that's correct because of the swapped car owner points that occurred during the offseason.
But I think one of the things that's really helped Marcos, and he told Larry and I and you, Mike, that he's comfortable. He's able to sit in the car and concentrate on his driving. He's much more comfortable.
And there he is among the Toyota top performers of the race at lap 45.
Yeah, he told us that they realized it was not going to work, them trying to operate as a single car operation. He said the only way it was going to work is to buy into the multi-car operation of Michael Waltrip Racing. And obviously I think it's working pretty well, because realistically, even though he's not considered a Rookie of the Year candidate, he's a rookie.
So his teammate, David Rudiman, in the 00, has led all but 7 laps of this race. And the acid test for Rudiman is going to be when they make that first pit stop. If they can get him out in the same shape he comes in, he's got a chance to contend. But now, Matt Kenseth in that 17 wants the lead.
He has been like the Pac-Man coming, just little by little.
Well, Matt's been able to run high and low. And David's been pretty committed to the bottom. Matt's made up a lot of time, particularly in traffic, with his ability to run up high and low, getting around these lap cars. And David's been stuck on the bottom the whole time.
You know what I think we're going to see, we showed at the top of the show, our race analysis. A fuel window here is 54 to 58 laps. We're at lap 46. I think we'll start to see some cars doing some short pitting, especially as cars get lapped.
That's Casey Mears in the 07, who just won a lap down, one of the Richard Childress cars. And Max Pappas just ahead of the leader, the Italian-born road racer, making his second oval track start. Back at 6th place, Ambrose moves past Jeff Gordon.
But Gordon's car has settled down quite a bit. It's not as, hadn't been falling back quite as badly. How's he like his car now, Krista?
A little bit better. You can even tell his voice, Daryl, on the radio, a little bit more calm. He said his car is tightening up in the middle of the corners, but it is still extremely loose off. Steve Letarte said, don't worry, we're going to give you a pretty major adjustment, give you something to lean on. Right now, though, he is holding on to a wild bull here in Texas.
Now, what helped that car tighten up is we're getting down to where they're almost out of fuel. There's a lot of weight out of the trunk now, which put more weight on the front of the car. That tightens the car up.
As you burn fuel off, the car will transfer weight more to the front, and that'll help tighten it up.
Different drivers experiencing different problems. Jeff Gordon's dropped 5 spots. Kevin Harvick has dropped 16 spots from where he started the day to 33rd. Listen to what he told his crew.
Got no rear grip and the front tires are pushing. You do the math.
Okay, which end you want me to work on first?
Yeah. Wonder how the spare tire is.
But I think, Daryl, you almost have to focus more on the looseness. You can't drive this racetrack loose as fast as it is.
No, the driver has no control over a loose car. That thing can turn around and spin it in a wall easily. At least with the front end pushing, you can work the throttle and the brake to make it turn.
And let's not pick on Kevin Harvick, because the beauty of this sport is they can improve that car. Look at Jimmy Johnson last week. Start of the race, he's junk. Comes in on 2 of the first 3 cautions, ends up winning the race. Here's Juan Paulo Montoya. He is in along with A.J. Allmendinger, the number 1 of Martin Truex, and our leader, Matt Kenseth. Matt Yoakum.
And Matt Kenseth looking for an air pressure change from Drew Blickensderfer for his crew chief to try to get a little more forward bite on this race car. Solid stop so far to Kristen.
Jeff Gordon saying his loose condition was getting double worse, a major wedge adjustment, and that's what called from Steve Letarte for Jeff Gordon. The crew, you see the wrench going in, it's going to be a 4-tire stop for the 24.
Kurt Busch, Bobby Labonte, Carl Edwards are in. Reed Sorensen. Here comes Harvick, Robbie Gordon, and here comes our pole sitter Rudiman. David Rudiman pits out of the lead, which now goes to Tony Stewart. And let's see how quickly that Rodney Childress crew can get him out, Steve.
And Mike, last communication from David Rudiman as he hits pit road is, I'm a little bit free all the way through, but don't change a thing. Matt.
Steve, a wedge and track bar adjustment already completed on Jimmy Johnson's Chevrolet. Mike Linderfeld hits the lugs in the left front, and he's away. Krista?
Greg Biffle, his race car extremely tight everywhere on the racetrack. A wedge adjustment, wedge out for the 16.
Most of the leaders are in or have been in. 14.5 seconds for Rudiman's crew.
Yeah, just think about this. Let's wait till it shakes out here and look where the 17 car is and look where the 00 is. It looks to me like the 17 really put it on them in the pits.
Steve.
And Mike, Denny Hamlin saying his car gets tight when he gets on the gas pedal. A quarter round down on the right rear for Hamlin. You see him parked kind of sideways in his box.
Kyle Busch picked up the lead as everyone else pitted. And here he comes, Steve.
Mike, Kyle Busch also saying that when he got on the gas, similar circumstance to his teammate Denny Hamlin, he's tight when he gets on the throttle. Air pressure adjustment for the 18 of Kyle Busch.
There's our new leader right there, Matt Kenseth in the 17 car, who had just taken the lead right before this rash of green flag stops.
15.4 for Kyle Busch. So pit stops cycle through from lap 50 to lap 54. And Matt Kenseth, a 2-time winner this season already, is your leader. Big crowd on hand north of Fort Worth, Texas. 25-mile-an-hour breeze hasn't kept the crowd out of the grandstand. You're in the pits there of 16th place Jimmy Johnson, last week's winner and defending series champ, as Matt Kenseth leads David Rudiman by 2.1 seconds. Bottom row center, Dale Jr. started 20th. He is up to 11th. 31 of the 43 starters are still on the lead lap at 61 laps. Dick?
During that first run, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car went from loose in the middle of the turn to a little free in to tight at the end. Obviously, he was paying attention to what Larry and Darrell said about how the weight percentage changes as the fuel burns off. Drew had a good stop. He came in 10th. He went out 11th, lost just one spot. He is running in 11th with a car that's performing very well today.
It's been a racetrack he's always liked. He sat on the pole here a year ago. He got his very first Nationwide Series win here back in 1998 and got his very first Sprint Cup Series win here in his rookie season in 2000.
These two guys here are having a pretty good go at it.
Fifth place changes hands. Greg Biffle. And ahead of Biffle, look at that 98 of Paul Menard. They had a good pit stop. He's running right near where he started. Here are drivers who have moved up the most since the start of this race. Kurt Busch started 28, now running 13th.
And you saw McMurray there. He made those 13 positions gain early, and then he kind of just stalled out. In fact, he's the only Roush Fenway car right now that's not in the top 8. There goes McMurray right there in the 26 car. Now, that's not a battle for position. Mike Bliss in the 09 car is 19 laps down. He's been in and out of the garage area. You see a lot of damage on the right side of his car from very early in the race.
Second place, here comes Tony Stewart.
You know, we talked about this last week at Martinsville. Tony Stewart has to be so proud. I'm sure there's nobody had more questions in their mind about him making this move from Joe Gibbs Racing to Stewart-Haas Racing to an operation that had struggled to even stay in the top 35. And here he's been running in the top 5, running in the top 10, up in the points. I'm sure he's breathing a huge sigh of relief.
And he just, for whatever reason, he seems so much more relaxed. I mean, he's, you know, you do interviews with him, and he's cutting up and fun. And the boys in the shop say comes in every Monday and Tuesday, patting everybody on the back and playing cranks on them. I think the guy's really found his niche as a car owner.
But I think the thing he did the best job at, and his teacher was Joe Gibbs, he surrounded that operation with good people.
Definitely did that.
Steve has more.
And Mike, keep in mind, Tony Stewart was with Greg Zipadelli, his crew chief, for 10 years. Now with crew chief Darian Grubb. Darian Grubb saying, I'm really surprised, pleasantly so, how quickly our communication has developed, and communication develops confidence.
You know what, though, when I think about Darian Grubb and I think about Greg Zipadelli, they have similar personalities. They have similar backgrounds. They're kind of low-key guys. They don't get it all up on the chip. When Tony says something, you know, or something goes wrong, I think those personalities are working out really well for Tony.
Well, he's got his hands full of David Rudiman again in that 00 car. This continues to be a battle for second. This is a little over 2 seconds behind our leader, Matt Kenseth, in that 17 car. You know, Matt Kenseth was one of the guys we talked about at the top of the show, Mike. You know, he won the first 2 races of the season. And since then, he's only had one top 20 finish. I mean, it's been engines blowing up. It's been wrecks. It's been handling problems. I know we got a long way to go, but I'm sure they feel pretty good about rebounding here.
Kind of felt like we might see this.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Budweiser. Reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager.
74 laps complete in Texas. We told you at the top of the day. Matt Kenseth starts up front. Watch out. He has now led 24 laps, and he's out in front of Tony Stewart by a second. 2.4 seconds ahead of David Rudiman in third. Greg Biffle and Paul Menard having a career day running in 5th place.
I think the 17 car is going to have a little company here.
Yes, he is. At 14, Tony Stewart is a coming.
Tony Stewart stepped out of Joe Gibbs Racing at the end of 2008 and out of the Home Depot Toyota. Its new driver, Joey Logano, gives us his thoughts on the season so far in today's The Home Depot Rookie File.
Okay. That's about where I'd evaluate it right now. You know, I think we had ups and downs. I think if we finish where we run, I think we'll be a lot better. Last few weeks we've had some bad luck. But looking at each race, we get better throughout the race. And I think that's key. You know, as long as we get better by the end of the race, I feel like we had a good day. And when we come back to these places next time, if we can start where we ended, we won't be behind the 8 ball anymore, and hopefully keep getting better.
Joey started 10th today, now trying to hang on to the lead lap.
The biggest thing they're trying to do is put some breathing room into the top 35 where they don't have to sweat that. They had the engine failure at Bristol. They had the right front tire issue at Martinsville. If they can just have some top 25 runs, they can put a little pad in that top 35 situation, which guarantees them a spot in the show.
I don't think they probably expected to be to have this much trouble. But look here, we got a good battle here for 3rd place.
Greg Biffle in that 16 car started back in the 14th position without the aid of a caution through one green flag pit stop. He has made his way to 3rd. Now sets its sights on Tony Stewart in that 14 car.
4 of those Roush Fenway Fords in the top 8 position. And 5 Roush Yates powered Fords in the top 8.
Those are the right horses for this course, that's for sure.
Jimmy Johnson, boy, having a tough day. Not like the start of Martinsville where they worked on that car for 3 straight pit stops and made it so much better. But Johnson's been trying to knock the wall down up in turn number 2, Matt.
2 to 3/10 of a lap slower than leader Matt Kenseth. Jimmy says the car is just way too tight. He cannot get it to roll through the centers of both 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then moments ago, he keyed the mic and said something is really wrong here. Something's bound up in the center of both corners.
But see, what they had at Martinsville that we haven't had here yet is a caution flag. When you got time to come down pit road, early cautions, you can fix your car. Right now, you're caught in a box. This thing stays green. All you can do is come in, put tires on it, and get back out.
But just take a look right here. That shows you how far behind he is of leader Matt Kenseth. It's almost a half a lap.
This is the longest we have ever run at Texas Motor Speedway without a caution. In 2006, we went 65 laps to the first yellow. We're 80 laps into this race, caution-free.
Yeah, if you remember my FedEx understanding the race, the first caution on the average the last 8 races comes around lap 22. We're well beyond that.
Johnson's teammate Jeff Gordon running in 6th place. Krista, he's 8 seconds off the leader.
Yeah, 8 seconds, kind of like being on that wild bull, right, Mike? Remember, Jeff Gordon was really loose off before the pit stop. Well, the adjustment worked, but it went too far. Now his car is tight off and extremely loose in. Jeff telling Steve Letarte it feels like his car wants to spin out. He even went as far to call his car evil.
Well, at these speeds, and particularly corner entry, I believe if I was going to have a problem here, I certainly wouldn't want it as I entered the corner at right at 200 miles an hour. So they need to fix that loose end to get him comfortable.
Kevin Harvick just in front of him, one of a number of drivers who have gone a lap down, not through any mishap, but perhaps by missing the setup. Long green run and a pit stop. So 1 lap down, Robbie Gordon, David Gilliland, Martin Truex, Ryan Newman, and Harvick, among others. Matt Kenseth 0.7 of a second ahead of Tony Stewart. The lead has changed hands. Matt Kenseth is having trouble getting off the corner, and Darrell, the car just doesn't seem to want to run down the straightaway. And Tony Stewart caught him and passed him. Let's show it.
I'm not sure what's going on here because the 17 is really fast through the corner, but when he gets on the straightaway, it's like, well, there he certainly had a problem off the corner, but he's been slow down the straightaway.
But you can see how quick Tony went by him down the front straightaway, a lot because he couldn't get off the corner off turn 4 that last time.
Of course, if you can't get back in the gas and you can't come off the corner with a lot of speed, then you're going to look slow on the straightaway.
Michael Waltrip trying to stay on the lead lap there in the 55. He is now behind Kenseth, the first car 1 lap down. You know, you can go to Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR, and ask just about anything about the race, about pre-race, about where the race is, or about, during pre-race, what is the proper etiquette to be observed during the playing of our national anthem. Get the answer now at Ask.com and enter the Ask.com NASCAR Challenge for a chance to win daily prizes or a trip to Talladega.
Larry, I just don't feel like that's a trick question. I feel like that's
you noticed I did not even go there. Tell you what, question. I think I know what's going on with Matt Kenseth. I just got the report from the pits that his car is really starting to tighten up. And when your car is not turning, it obviously binds the car up at the speed you're carrying here. And I think that's one reason he's not getting off the corner and the speed's not showing up down the straightaway.
And I believe if his car is tightening up like that, he ought to run higher. He keeps that thing right around the bottom, which will even choke it down more, bog it down more. I believe if he had run a little higher, maybe it would help free the car up and he might pick up a little speed. He'll figure that out, I bet you, before long.
Kenseth stands 0.7 of a second behind Tony Stewart. This is the second time Stewart's led today. During the round of green flag pit stops back around lap 50, Stewart stayed out a little longer than Kenseth and David Rudiman and led a lap, so it's the second time Stewart's led today.
This is a battle right here for 11th, 12th, and 13th. Kyle Busch in the 18, Casey Kane. You can see the run he gets on the high side in the 9, and Jeff Burton in the 31.
Just ahead of them, Kyle Busch hanging on to 11th place, 13 seconds back of the leader, Steve.
And Mike, Kyle Busch just said, my biggest problem is I'm tight after the center of the corner. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm just not that fast right now.
And Darrell, isn't it amazing? The first 30 or 40 laps, all we heard was loose, loose, loose. Now here we are getting close to lap 100. It's like maybe some rubbers went down on this track now, and we're starting to hear that tight, tight, tight.
That's what you would expect to hear. You know, if the track and the car and the tires and all go like they should, being a little loose to start with, and usually not a bad thing. Just don't want to be over the fence.
And if they tightened it up on that first stop, that may have jumped the fence.
That's exactly what I think happened to the 24 car.
And that 18 just about spun out right in front of Jeff Burton coming through the quad oval of the front straightaway. How about his older brother, Kurt Busch, running in 10th place, Dick?
Kurt Busch is having a great day, Mike. Started in the 28th spot, so he's already passed 18 cars. He has tried both the top and the bottom. His car is a little bit more loose on the bottom than it is on the top, but it's pretty good every place on the racetrack. His crew, however, is getting ready. They're concerned that they're going to have to do another green flag stop in the not distant future.
Now, for those of you listening for interesting scanner chatter like last week, car owner Roger Penske, we're told, is not at the track today. He's with his open wheel team elsewhere and is not up on the roof on the radio with his drivers, Kurt Busch, Stremme, and Sam Hornish. Well, it is windy here today, and wrappers and empty cans can get away, and one did.
That was a very timely caution because, as Dick mentioned, we were getting very close to what would be our second green flag pit stop, and that was quite a break for David Stremme, Brian Vickers, Clint Boyer. They were just about to go a lap down.
And I know Michael worked really hard to try to stay right there to get the lucky dog, but I'm not sure he did. It appears Allmendinger may have gotten the lucky dog.
Indeed, A.J. Allmendinger, first car one lap down at the moment of caution, so he will come back around and give us 24 cars on the lead lap when we restart. We went 97 laps without a caution flag. That is a record for Texas Motor Speedway, eclipsing the old mark by almost 50%.
But isn't it amazing? FedEx understanding the race. The average longest green flag run, 96 laps. There we were, right there at it.
When we had that shot of Michael, look what he's got over here, Larry. This is his pit road assignment right here. That's all the cars that are around him on pit road. So he can find his, he starts knowing his 12, 7, 39, 55, and then he's got the 88 in front of him.
That's a great idea.
I like that.
Great idea. I think Michael may have had a little issue earlier in the season finding his pit box.
All right, pit road is open. And here come the leaders, headed by Tony Stewart, but pitted way up at that end of pit road first. To peel off will be Matt Kenseth in the 17. Here's Matt.
And Drew Blickensderfer and Matt went back and forth on what adjustments to make. At this juncture, going to go for a slight track bar adjustment and an air pressure adjustment. He needs more grip in the front of the race car. He was tighter on this run than the first one. Krista?
Greg Irwin asking Greg Biffle, do you need to be freed up a little more? Greg said, no, we're pretty good here. I don't want to do too much, so just a slight air pressure adjustment for Biffle. Steve?
Krista, Tony Stewart saying, I am tight in the center and loose off, so they're going to put some air in the left rear. David Rudiman, meanwhile, says he's losing the nose in the center. Pretty big adjustment. They'll drop the air in both front tires.
Here's our Verizon race off pit road as the Killer Bees, Matt Kenseth's team, once again are the best of the West.
I tell you what, the 16 team of Biffle's not bad today either.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Napa Auto Parts. Napa, get the good stuff. By AT&T, your world delivered. And by the all-new 09 F-150. It's not just a new truck, it's a new F-150.
Teammates Matt Kenseth and Greg Biffle will be the leaders on this restart ahead of Tony Stewart. Just 6 days to Fox Saturday Baseball when the Red Sox take on the Angels, Astros, Cards, or Twins battle their AL Central nemesis, the White Sox. Fox Saturday Baseball presented by DirecTV, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. 3 great matchups in high definition. Check your local listings.
Well, I think after this round of caution flag pit stops, we'll see some different race cars. I think guys that were struggling are going to have a lot better cars now.
Let's have a look at today's Ford Drive One moment. Carl Edwards swept both races at Texas last season, becoming the only driver to do the Texas 2 flip. 3 wins at this speedway, all coming in the last 7 races. And last fall, he led 107 laps and ran the final 69 laps on 1 tank of fuel. To fire those 6 shooters into the air, he led over 500 miles at this speedway last season. Want to win a Ford Fusion? Log on to WeRaceUWin.com and see how. There's our 3D Ford Fusions at the front of this field. Kenseth and Biffle. There's Tony Stewart. David Rudiman, our pole sitter, came in 4th, came out 4th. And Carl Edwards up to 5th, gaining 1 spot on pit road. Big loser on those stops, Paul Menard, dropped from, let's see, 5th to 8th.
I believe this is going to be a very interesting restart for several reasons. We got a lot of guys, they want to get their lap back. I think Greg Biffle wants to lead this race in the worst kind of way in that 16.
24 cars on the lead lap as we get set for the restart. It'll be our Claret and Clear to Drive restart. Live Claret and Clear, indoors and out.
Well, Larry, a lot of guys I just know they needed a chance to work on their cars now. They've had one. I think you'll see some different race cars from here on.
I'll tell you a car that's cracked the top 10, and he had almost fallen out of the top 20 through virtue of the pit stop, and I think his car was good at the tail end of that long run, was Jeff Burton in that 31 car. He has now moved into the top 10.
Oh, he'll be around.
One car that had a very long stop was Kyle Busch. He came into the pits 14th, came out 20th, so a lot of work was done there.
He had a lug nut hang in the wheel. That's the reason he lost so many spots on that pit stop.
Back under green in Texas, coming to 1/3 distance here in a few laps.
Biffle got a good run through 1 and 2, but he was kind of boxed in there. Now, who got the good run was Tony Stewart at 14, but he had to throw out of the throttle.
Coming off turn 4, let's crank it up. Breakaway coming off this restart. A lot of action mid-pack on back, and a good bit of frustration from drivers whose cars hadn't been quite right, trying to make something happen. Here's that log jam.
Well, you get lap cars in there and you get cars on the outside there trying to get by them, and boy, does it bottle things up in a hurry. Everything happens in a hurry here.
Well, Darrell and I have been watching it. The car up there to the top of the racetrack, Eric Almirola in the 8 car, he was caught in the middle, and they were splitting him left and right for 2 solid laps.
He was caught in a trap and couldn't get out.
Denny Hamlin running 18th. Mark Martin just ahead.
We've got 24 cars on the lead lap. Right now, Bobby Labonte in the Ask.com number 96 car. He's the first car 1 lap down. He'd love to see a caution. 2 cars that are in the garage area, Mike Bliss in the 09, Dave Blaney in the 66.
I believe that pit stop really helped the 24 car, Larry. I've been watching him, and that car is now down in the racetrack. It looks like it's going pretty good. He's moving forward again.
But I think what we'll have to do, Darrell, just like the start of the race, let's see where he's at about 12 laps into this run, because that's where he started backing up.
Car looks a lot better than it did before that caution came out.
The last time down the back straightaway, Kyle Busch was trying to gain some
he got left
racing room.
He got left rear cut down.
And we'll show you how.
He'll come to pit road under green.
That'll take Kyle Busch off the lead lap. Top of your screen with the white car there, which I believe is the 34. Oof. It's John Andretti.
Now, you know what? He was unhappy with that 34 car. Probably wouldn't get out of the way fast enough. So he's going to give me a little message about, hey, dude, move it.
Pull on that quarter panel, too.
He ended up paying the price for that little move.
They're going to go close to going 2 laps down because the leader's coming off turn 4 right now.
They just can't speed, which he's down at the end down there. He should be all right there.
But, Darrell, this isn't Martinsville. You can't beat and bang like this at these speeds.
No.
I mean, you can, but look what happens.
Yeah, well, you end up hurting yourself. In that case, definitely hurt him.
He's trying desperately to get up to speed because he does not want to go a second lap down, because that becomes a big challenge with as many cars as we have 1 lap down.
There is the gap as Kyle Busch gets up to speed as he comes off turn number 4. Kenseth and Biffle are the race leaders.
You know, we talked about them ramping it up on this restart. The 3 Roush Fenway cars, Kenseth, Biffle, and Edwards, they ran their fastest laps 2 to 3 laps after that last restart.
Steve?
Mike, more trouble for Kyle Busch. He just said, I'm coming back in. Get the baseball bat out. I still have a bad tire rub. Get that sheet metal off my tire.
I don't see it. I think you need to calm him down a little bit. I don't see any smoke unless it's somewhere on the left side rubbing the fender and we can't tell it, and he can. I don't see any smoke.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely needs to try to stay out there. I don't see any smoke. There's the tire right there that came off the left rear of that 18 car. Right now, what the 18 car needs is a caution for several reasons.
His brother Kurt battles Dale Earnhardt Jr. for 13th. They're about 12 seconds behind the leader. Dick?
Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s car, they didn't do a lot of adjustment to it, Mike, but it had been loose on that last set of laps that we went before the caution flag, before the pit stop, so they've tightened it up a little bit. I'm also in Kurt Busch's pit, and they had a real narrow miss to what could have been a disaster. Busch got trapped into his pit area, and he wound up having to back the car up. And he wound up backing it right into Steve Williams. His catch can man didn't knock him over, but it was a very close one.
And the reason he was blocked in is Clint Boyer, which was one of the last cars on the lead lap of the 33 car, is pitting right in front of him. So I'm sure the 2 cars pit stop was well finished. Clint Boyer was still sitting there.
114 laps complete. And 3 of the top 5 right now, including the 2 leaders, are those Roush Fenway Fords. Laps complete. Greg Biffle has been out in front for the last 3 laps. He passed his 4 teammate Matt Kenseth to take over the lead. Tony Stewart, David Rudiman, Jeff Gordon, 1 through 5. Darrell, you talked about drivers having a chance to work on their cars during the caution flag and try to make them better. Who's done a good job of that?
Well, I think so far you got to say the 24 did the best job, because he's now going forward again, not backward, like he did at the start of the race. And the other guy I think has done a great job of getting up through the traffic and got good track position now is Jeff Burton in the 31 car. He's in the 8th place, and he continues to scratch and claw to the front.
All right, we're past 1/3 distance. Let's get down to the Hollywood Hotel for an AT&T race break.
Thanks, Mike. And on pace so far with 10 lead changes, Greg Biffle, the most recent to get out in front of Matt Kenseth, and the Roush Fenway Fords doing okay today. Carl Edwards running 6th, but we are on a pace anyway with just 1 caution of seeing a number of lead changes. Jeff, let's first talk about Kurt Busch. Mike mentioned earlier the issue with Roger Penske, and of course the attitude adjustment that may have taken place, but certainly his car and where Kurt is running, and Penske has said these 1.5-mile tracks have been a priority coming into this year.
Yeah, so that's the case right there. I mean, but coming off of last week, I got a chance to talk to Pat Tryson, the crew chief, and you know, we all know as far as crew chiefs, time to time, drivers are going to get a little bit upset. And the good thing about it was Pat said that and Kurt's relationship has not been damaged. He really feels like they got an understanding that that's what his job is. I understand that. I was Kurt's crew chief. Sometimes he gets upset. You've got to kind of like take it, absorb it, and move on. The key thing for Pat and that entire team is for the team not to get affected by it. I think the crew chief driver relationship's fine, and it's showing pretty well here so far today.
All right, Mark Martin up to 14th. Now, he's the kind of guy, he's coming off back-to-back top 10 finishes, working his way through the pack. Is he the right kind of driver you want on a car to get feedback from if you're a crew chief?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this veteran right here, I mean, he may be, you know, been around here for a long time, but he's just as young and energetic as any 25-year-old that's out there today. And the key thing about it is he's sneaky. I mean, he's kind of like one of those drivers. He's going to figure this thing out, and as long as that car stays up underneath him, he's going to figure out a way to get a top 10 finish. Right now, he finds himself in 14th. He's making a good day of it.
All right, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88, it's starting 20th, his worst start in Texas, but of course he won here, his first Cup win, moving up to 16th and hanging in there comfortably.
Well, been watching him. He got up to the top side of this racetrack pretty quick, and he's making it work pretty well. See the big run he's getting off of the turn 4 out there going by Jamie McMurray in a 26 car. Already threw his hand out the window to let him know, hey, thanks, you saw me coming. So I think right now, again, he's looking for something that works for him. He's 15th, a lot like his teammate Jeff Gordon. I think you'll see him battle his way up to the top 5 before the end of the day.
And Matt Kenseth, the lap leader so far. To vote for the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award from your phone, text the car number for the crew you think will be the most valuable in each race. The fan voting, along with Jeff Hamlin's pick here, will determine the winning crew each week. So fans, your vote counts on your AT&T phone. You can vote the AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award. And that's our AT&T race break at the moment. Let's head back upstairs and rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Now watch Dale Earnhardt Jr. here coming up on his teammate Mark Martin. 28 years ago today, Martin made his first ever start in what was then the Winston Cup Series. There are 13 drivers in this race who weren't even born 28 years ago today. That battle for 14th decided in favor of Earnhardt. Denny Hamlin, the next car in front of him.
Yeah, that 5 car was so fast in practice before qualifying. Qualified terrible. I don't know what happened to his qualifying run, and he really hadn't come to the front like I thought he may today.
I listened to an interview that he did on NASCAR Race Day on Speed before our pre-race show, and he said that he never did get happy with his car in race trim after qualifying, and this kind of supports it.
Boy, Junior got a run because Denny Hamlin almost got into the back of his rookie teammate Joey Logano. Logano slid up. Hamlin had to go to the bottom, left the very bottom open for Junior, who had a big head of steam and now goes back up to the top side, and he still hasn't got past Hamlin.
Logano was wondering how many more are there.
Right.
That's the second time, though, that's happened to Denny Hamlin, where he almost got into the back of a car because he was so much faster off the corner.
Now here's Jeff Gordon battling David Rudiman. This will be for 4th place. They're about 4.5 seconds behind race leader Greg Biffle.
I think Darrell was spot on. I think if there is definitely a turnaround team in the first 129 laps of this race, as far as making the right adjustments, it would be Steve Letarte, Jeff Gordon, and that 24 bike.
I will give them an attaboy.
Greg Biffle has now led 14 of the 130 laps in the Samsung 500.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Coca-Cola. Open a Coke and enjoy the race. By Ask.com, where do NASCAR fans get answers? Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR. And by Home Depot. More saving, more doing. That's the power of the Home Depot.
Biffle and Kenseth and Ford still lead, but a new 3rd place driver, Jeff Gordon, has gone past Tony Stewart. Greg Biffle has now been out in front for the last 20 laps. Since that caution flag pit stop, he came up and around Matt Kenseth to take the lead. Little bobble there, but he holds a lead of 3 seconds over his teammate.
The times are incredible. These first 8 cars are all running within 1/10 of each other around this racetrack.
Kenseth has led the most laps today. He's led 3 times for 55 laps.
I think we knew when he qualified 3rd he was going to be bad news.
And you got Jeff Gordon, and I am just really proud of the adjustments they made on that car, because a lot of times they go the wrong way. They didn't go the wrong way this time. That baby's hunting.
Tony Stewart's been a top 5 car all day, but is that a car that can get up and lead for a while?
Well, he got up there and he moved up at the early part of the race, but it's almost like I don't think they're any worse than they were. I think Jeff Gordon and some of these other guys, they've gotten their car better.
And the big question on David Rudiman, who's 5 seconds off the lead in 5th, could they hold their own on pit stops? And the answer so far is yes. They've given up very few spots on pit road.
And I like the race that he is running. He's just really running a consistent race, not pushing real hard just yet.
6th is Carl Edwards. Matt?
And Mike, the biggest complaint that Edwards has reported back to Bob Osborne, his crew chief, the car is just way too free all the way through the corner. It's almost gotten away from him a couple times, extremely loose, looking at making a significant air pressure change on his next stop. He's asked his spotter, Jason Hedleski, where his 2 teammates who are running at the front, the 16 of Biffle and the 17 of Kansas, where were they running in the corners, on the bottom or lane up? And Hedleski told him, both cars on the bottom.
Behind Edwards, about 1.5 seconds, is David Reagan. He's been a top 10 car all day.
You know what? And that was one of my unknowns at the start of the race. I just wasn't sure he had a good car that was going to race good. He got a good qualifying run, but they've stayed right up there. And we're going to get an opportunity to see what these pit crews can do because we're about 10 laps away from our next set of green flag stops.
And our 8th place runner there, Jeff Burton, I've been watching him work his way up through the field, and now he's in 8th place. I just got to believe. My heart tells me that he and Kenseth, there's going to be a battle there before it's over with.
In 9th, Kurt Busch. I think the problems of Martinsville all behind that team. They have been solid all day, Dick.
Now, Kurt Busch just keyed his radio and told the crew, remember the cerebral Kurt Busch, if I had to analyze this car, he said, thinks the problem really is the wind. He said every time he gets the car into yaw coming off some of the turns here, the wind pushes it back. Yaw is just a little bit sideways, and that's the fastest way to possibly get out of the corner. They're talking about trying to figure out a way to get the right rear tire to work against that. Krista.
Well, Dick, it's funny that you mentioned the wind because that is actually the secret weapon for Juan Pablo Montoya. He is up running in the top 10 right now. Why does he like the wind? Well, I'm not kidding. Windsurfing is his newest hobby. He said he's so excited to have a weekend off when he gets back from Colombia. He's going to practice his windsurfing in Miami. Brian Patty even asked his driver today, what sail should we use?
Well, wind is good for surfing, but it's not good for making adjustments on race cars. Jeff Hammond talked about this wind in the pre-race show, and it's a challenge because you're trying to adjust your race car to the feedback your driver's giving you, but there's things you can't control, and that's the direction and the amount of the wind that's blowing.
But, Larry, what I'm watching, and we always watch the flags. If you're a crew chief or a fan, watch the flags. And what I see is we don't have a wind from any one direction. Kind of swirls around, and then you get a great big puff. You watch the American flag out there, all of a sudden it'll just look straight out. So we're getting these wind gusts is what we're getting, and I think the guys are feeling that.
If it was more consistent, it would be more predictable.
You could adjust to it, but it's that gust that's messing them up.
The forecast for today, sustained winds of 22 miles an hour with gusts to 35. And that's pretty strong.
And these cars are made, these sides of these cars we talked about in our practice show, the side of the car is really big. And they got the rear wing with the end plate on it, and they are wind effective.
Greg Biffle continues to lead this race. We kind of run down the top dozen with Hornish 13th, McMurray 14th, and Steve Denny Hamlin in 15th.
And he is extremely loose, Mike. Yesterday they were flying in practice, but yesterday, as you guys have said, 20 degrees warmer. Mike Ford said this morning, if we had run the race yesterday, we would have won it. But they are just wicked loose.
And we've been talking about cars that we think can be contenders if they can get up there. One car I've been watching ever since he had that problem after that last restart was Kyle Busch in the 18 car. Remember, he is almost 2 laps down, but he has maintained out in front of our leader, Greg Biffle. This man needs and wants a caution.
We're still under the green flag in Texas. Matt Kenseth had been backsliding 3rd to 4th to 5th. So, Matt, did they come in a little bit early?
Absolutely, Mike. We are on the outside of that window for this next round of pit stops. They made a chassis adjustment. Also, the air pressure change. The 48 of Jimmy Johnson should be coming in shortly.
But remember, in the first set of green flag stops, Matt Kenseth, the 17, Drew Blickensderfer, they were one of the first cars to come on that set of green flag stops.
If I'm that 48,
guys, be ready to shift. You guys be ready to shift tires and hoses.
If I'm 48, I want to come to the pits. They need some big adjustments on that car.
The leader is in. Greg Biffle comes down pit road. Jimmy Johnson is also in. Krista?
The only concern on that run for Greg Biffle was a little bit of something on his grill. Right now, he said the balance on his race car is good. As the 16 pulls in to his pit stop, the call was no adjustments for the 16. They like their car just the way it is.
Notice Kyle Busch in the 18 car came in. He could not afford to stay out there on those older tires when these leaders started hitting pit road because he couldn't give up that kind of track position.
So Jeff Gordon becomes the leader for the second time today as David Stremme pits along with Casey Kane, Clint Boyer, and here comes Gordon and Tony Stewart side by side down the pit lane. David Rudiman right behind them. Krista?
Jeff Gordon said his car was a little tight on the throttle up off the turns, but extremely better than where they were when they started this race. Just a slight air pressure adjustment. Matt.
And Carl Edwards' biggest complaint that last run, the car was just so free. Chassis adjustment completed. They're taking a long time on that left rear, Steve.
Matt, just chassis adjustment for Tony Stewart. He said, don't hurt my center. I need forward bite. Chassis adjustment, 4 tires for Stewart. Dick.
Well, as Larry McReynolds said, the crew has to do what the driver tells them, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. told his crew on the last stop the car was really loose. They tightened it, and he was tight on that whole run, so they loosened him up again. We'll see how that works.
Oh, the police are out.
Yep, 2 drivers' days have gone from bad to worse. Kevin Harvick too fast exiting, and Kyle Busch too fast entering. Those will be passed through penalties.
And that is not what Kyle Busch in that 18 car needed because they were right on strategy. We had that first set of green flag pit stops back lap 50 to 54. We had no penalties. Now we've had 2.
There's Montoya's stop, angled in, gets away. And Kurt Busch has led for the first time today during this sequence, Dick.
Yeah, and Kurt Busch called the adjustments that he wanted on this pit stop, Mike. The car has been very close. Before the round of pit stop started, Busch had worked his way all the way up to the 9th position. That's the best he has been all day. Just minor adjustments to the car. Nice stop by the crew.
Mark Martin picked up the lead, but now he's on pit road for service. And that will turn it back to
trouble
Biffle.
right here front straightaway, the 19 car around right here to start.
Keep it down, man. Good job. Keep it down. Get going when you can. Get going when you can. Leaders on the back stretch.
We just had cycled through the full set of green flag pit stops. Mark Martin in the 5 was the last guy to come to pit road.
And he was on pit road past the start-finish line when this happened to the 19 of Elliott Sadler.
Yeah, the pace car hadn't pulled out yet. Ooh, it looked like he may have got a little touch.
If he did, was he already going around Darrell before he got bumped?
We'll have to look at it again. Certainly the 2 cars close together there, it appeared that he may have gotten bumped.
This was already in progress.
Now the black flag was out for Kyle Busch for that speeding penalty. Here's another look. Let's see how this started.
I think he got loose before that 18 car ever got to him. Yeah, he's already loose, bad loose. And I'm not even sure that Kyle Busch in the 18 ever even got against him.
It's a no-brainer. He said, I see you coming. I'll go ahead and spin out of your way. And he needed a caution.
Reminds me of the day Jimmy Spencer got blamed for a caution flag. Jimmy was in the garage at the time. We're under yellow.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race.
Still under the second caution of the day. Marcus Ambrose dealing with a sticking throttle, and Jamie McMurray has gone to the garage. Kyle Busch made a penalty stop, and they're going to pull out that fender. And our pole sitter, David Rudiman, is no longer on the lead lap for a combination of errors during that stop.
Let's take a look. It all started. Now, this was on his pit stop on lap 153. All right, there's the 77 car that's leaving his pit. Here's the 00. Now, look at the NASCAR official right there. He's telling them right then he's across that front line. In my book, that's where it's on the crew chief's shoulders to tell the crew, Back him up, back him up, back him up. If they'd have put the old tires back on and backed him up, there would not be a penalty.
I just don't understand. These teams need to start practicing that because it happens time and time again. That official's out there almost every week when there's a violation or an infraction telling them about it, but they ignore him and just keep going.
But once they do any work of the pit stop and don't undo it, then it becomes a penalty. His teammate, Marcos Ambrose, he has his share of problems right now. The throttle is starting to stick on that 47 car.
Another question from Ask.com, the official search engine of NASCAR here at Texas Motor Speedway. What is Burnout Alley? Get the answer now at Ask.com, and you could win a trip to Talladega in the Ask.com NASCAR Challenge.
Well, one car that has taken advantage of every single lap of this caution here is the 48 car, Jimmy Johnson and Chad Canals. They've made 3 pit stops trying to get that car better. It's almost like deja vu from the beginning of the race at Martinsville, where they never passed up an opportunity to make adjustments.
You give them enough time to work on it, they'll get it fixed.
Yes, they will.
18 cars on the lead lap as we're ready to go green with our Claret and Clear to Drive restart. Get Claret and Clear. Get back to feeling like yourself again.
I feel like Harry Hogg. We're up here eating ice cream and watching a race.
Days of thunder. Jamie McMurray out of the race with transmission trouble. Or that is, he's in the garage. They've not withdrawn the car. They're trying to get it repaired. Green flag, Greg Biffle, teammate Matt Kenseth, and Jeff Gordon as you watch speeds build off into turn 1.
They'll all but run wide open through 1 and 2, getting up the speed. You can see coming off turn 2 there, well over 170 miles per hour, carries all the way down that back straightaway.
You know, you're talking about Jimmy Johnson coming in and working on his car. We've only got 18 cars on the lead lap, so it wasn't a bad thing to do to work on your car right now, but you won't start that far back.
Daryl, just remember one of our FedEx understanding the race, the average cars that finish on the lead lap in this 500-mile race is 14 cars, and that's even with the free pass that's available.
Now, just before the restart, Bobby Labonte in the 96 got a bit of damage to his car. He and Michael Waltrip, the 55.
They're messing around up here trying to get lined up for the restart, and all of a sudden Mikey decides he needs behind a 21.
Martin Truex in the 1 might have got a piece of that
too. Truex gets into the back of the 96.
And the right rear of Labonte's car flapping in the breeze from the contact with Truex.
Mike, we see the 18 car there, Kyle Busch. That caution was a huge break for him because he had not served his drive-through penalty for speeding on pit road. So that worked out perfect. He's 2 laps down, but he would have been almost 3 had he have made that pit stop or that penalty under green.
Likewise, Kevin Harvick, who served the penalty during that caution flag for pit road speed infraction.
You know who's driving their guts out right now is David Gilliland in that 71 car, because what he's trying to do is stay just 1 lap down. He's a guy that would love to see our flagman waving that yellow flag right now.
Biffle, Kenseth, Jeff Gordon, and Tony Stewart. Now the 4th place car. There is Stewart, who had a little bit of trouble during his pit stop. Steve?
Mike, they had a little miscommunication on the right rear. Just checked with the team. Daniel Smith is the rear tire changer. Mike Morneau, the rear tire carrier. They just lost 1 spot. Tony Stewart trying to become the first owner driver to win a race since Ricky Rudd in September of 1998.
It has been a while.
I can tell you right now, they got the people, they got the equipment, they got the resources to be able to pull that off.
You know, Daryl, he's running in 4th right now. You've mentioned this guy a couple of times, a guy lurking right behind him. He has now cracked the top 5. Kurt Busch in that 2 car. They just keep making that car, I think, better and better with every time they get an opportunity to adjust on it.
What I really liked, what I heard this morning, was they changed the car over and put the Atlanta setup in that race car.
Even though it's not the Atlanta car they brought here. Even though it's not the Atlanta car. They threw everything that they had in Atlanta at this car. I think it's working.
And that was a bit of a surprise. That car dominated at Atlanta. Why didn't they bring it here?
I'm like Darrell on that one.
Yeah.
They're saving it for the Coca-Cola 600 in Lowe's. Your next most important race is the next race.
Don't ever save a car.
It's just the track getting rubbered up and us doing our thing.
Now David Reagan is right in front of Kurt Busch. And Matt, he's been a top 10 car all day, at number 6.
And 2 laps ago, pulled into the top 5. He says the balance is not bad. After about 10 to 12 laps, it starts to get a little free. But he really feels like it's the wind that's picked up that's causing some unbalance in the race car. That's why Jimmy Finnig on the last stop made no changes on that 6 car.
That's part of the UPS Maximum Center Recognition Program. UPS recognizes superior service and performance of one of its operating centers at each Sprint Cup Series race. Today, the UPS Maximum Center is number 7560 in Longview, Texas, riding along on the wing of David Reagan's car. UPS, what can Brown do for you?
This by far, I think, I know we're just at halfway, but I think this is by far the best run that this 6 car has had this year with David Reagan in his 3rd year in Sprint Cup.
You know, and I thought, and I think you agree, that this kid was going to be the guy to beat to make the chase, win races, run up front. He's shown a lot of improvement. He showed a lot of good development. But, boy, he needs to get some results.
Yeah, almost made the chase. Darrell, guess who is lurking just outside the top 10? Man made a lot of pit stops under that last caution. That 48 car, Jimmy Johnson. You can see him right there. He's back in 12th, restarted in 17th. I think they've given them just enough opportunity to make that car better.
That's what they needed, and it won't take long to find out if the car's better because he hadn't gone forward all day, and now he is.
$171 laps complete, just past halfway in the Samsung 500 in Texas.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Toyota. Moving forward.
177 laps complete in Texas. Greg Biffle, here he comes.
Fast as he's running, you better get back in that hole.
One of these days, somebody's going to hit that gopher. Greg Biffle leading Matt Kenseth by 3.5 seconds. At this stage of the race, Kenseth unable to keep pace.
I think it's real windy. It's unpredictable.
With his teammate.
That's what I'm seeing. It's just unpredictable. The wind gust, huge gust, straighten that big old American flag straight out on the pole, then it just dropped dead still.
You know, Darrell, you can never relax around this 1.5 mile racetrack at no time, but I would say with it being unpredictable, you better have a pretty tight grip on that wheel.
Yeah, well, you're already on edge, and you don't need anything helping push you over it.
Going to have a look at today's State Farm safety report. Centering upon driver and car safety, and everybody mindful of what happened here 1 year ago as Michael McDowell tried to make his qualifying lap on Friday afternoon. Might have got into a little bit of speedy drive, but up the track he went for a wild Texas twister.
No one will forget a year ago the wreck of the 00 of Michael Waltrip Racing and then driver Michael McDowell, and the test that the driver and the car went through. That's right, the new COT. A lot safer than ever before, and that test that day proved the fact of the roll cage, the chassis, as well as the cockpit area, and particularly looking inside the seat area itself. All of this designed by NASCAR to keep their drivers safer. Why? Because we want to watch them walk away.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, the 00 was on the front page of the Dallas paper Saturday morning 2 years in a row. Michael McDowell last year and David Rudiman this year for winning the pole.
Well, there he is, that 48 car. He just drove by his teammate Mark Martin in the 5. Jimmy Johnson has now cracked the top 10. He's basically where he started this race now.
He made some home improvements in that car.
Yes, he did.
Meanwhile, Mark Martin, watch the 5. He is wrestling with that car.
Step out right there. It's just kind of typical COT. They just do that. They come off a corner, quite a bit of wheel turn in it, and then all of a sudden the back jumps out. That's what makes these cars hard to drive.
And as you saw with our pointer, that was about 170 miles an hour. It stepped out.
Just ahead of him, Jimmy Johnson marching toward the front, Matt.
Mike, on that last caution, Johnson sounded more like a coach trying to keep his guys up. He said, this is a great chance for us. Let's take a big swing at it. And that's exactly what Chad Knaus did. Twice he made wedge adjustments. The track bar shuffled the air pressure, and it has definitely helped. He says the car is tight, but is turning well. And then he ended the line by saying, here we come, boys. And he definitely is.
I would say he is.
And he knows when they get it right.
You know, Mike, we've paid so much attention to Kurt Busch in the 2 car, and rightly so. Dominated Atlanta, sitting 3rd in the points. But his 2 teammates, so far 184 laps in this race, they're pretty solid right now. You see David Strimmy there in the 12 car, started 32nd. He's now running in the top 15 and 14th. And then Sam Hornish Jr., who had a spin the other day, didn't really hit anything, had a good qualifying run. He's inside the top 15. So overall, a good day for Penske Racing, especially when you look back at the fact that Kurt Busch is running 6th right now.
Yeah, I think we have to give a lot of credit to the engine that they have developed. That's got the new Dodge engine in the car. Plus, they've made a lot of personnel changes internally at Penske as well with engineers.
Yeah, nice run for Hornish. Now, Paul Menard started 5th, ran in the top 5 for much of the day, but what we've learned is on the last pit stop, under caution, they took their time to make several major adjustments to Menard's car. He's still on the lead lap, but that's why he is back in 18th.
But he is the last car on the lead lap, as we now have 18 cars that are on the lead lap, Paul Menard in the 98 being the last one. Right now, he's about 5 seconds in front of leader Greg Biffle.
And the way Biffle is getting through traffic, Larry, he is taking no prisoners right now. He is slicing and dicing like he's trying to catch the leader rather than being the leader.
There's the lead, Biffle to Kenseth, and it's now 4.2 seconds. Quietly, but steadily, Jeff Burton has just been rolling along, Steve. He's up to 8th place.
Sounds like an old guy.
Yeah, he's the veteran indeed. Now, Mike, before the last pit stop, Jeff Burton said it's borderline loose through the majority of the run. Then, 10 laps prior to the stop, it went to the tight side. And just moments ago, Jeff said it is now way tougher to drive. I need to get that rear end down on the exit of the corner.
And I just think this track is really starting to change as we're now well past halfway. I can see people starting to really move their grooves around. More cars are moving up to the top. It's just going through some huge transition with all the rubber being laid down.
And see, the thing that a lot of these guys, they can't grasp is this is a 500-mile race. It's a long race. You don't panic. You don't panic in the pits. Tony Stewart doesn't have to tell his team to slow down. We got a lot of time here. Got time to work on your car like Jimmy Johnson did. Got time to develop some strategy and a way to win this race.
Juan Pablo Montoya, remember they switched makes at Ganassi Racing when they merged with Dale Earnhardt Inc. for 2009, and you know Montoya's been a pretty steady top 10 runner, or at least car with top 10 finishing potential. And he is 9th right now.
Yeah, remember, he comes in here 14th in the points, only 31 points out of the top 12. You talked about that make change. I talked to his crew chief, Brian Patty. They said one of the biggest things that was an advantage of that make change is those Earnhardt Childress engines under the hood of that race car now.
You have plenty of room. Just take your time right here and get it off. Nobody around.
By getting Biffle
on the right side, brush back across there.
Right up there to Almirola, they want him to get close enough to a car in front of him to get a piece of trash off the lower right grill.
Looked like a piece of the tear off from the windshield.
Keep watching. I'm on my way to Brett now.
And that's one of the big fears we had today with all this wind blowing so much trash around.
Greg Biffle nearly 3 seconds up on Matt Kenseth, with Jeff Gordon another 1.5 seconds back in 3rd.
Roush Fenway Fords, 4 of the top 7 in the last couple of races. I realize short race tracks, but they finished 10th and 15th right now, dominating this race.
Yeah, they're looking like they're right back where they belong here in Texas. Everybody's been saying this is a house that Roush built, and right now Greg Biffle, he's looking to get kind of like rebounded, because a few weeks ago he was 3rd in the points, Chris, and all of a sudden he had 3 bad races, wound up 23rd. Here's a guy who won the Daytona 500 as well as the 2nd race of the season, Matt Kenseth. He's back on track. Carl Edwards, 3 wins here, going for for a 3-peat basically after sweeping last year. They look like they're back on track, and the reason why, they tried some stuff with the short track program for Bristol and Martinsville. It didn't work. But here, when they came in talking to David Reagan as well as Greg Biffle, they've got a mixture of what was old from last year with some of some new technology, and they've kind of like married it up. And right now, it is really paying some dividends.
All right, Clint Boyer, who came in 2nd in points, he's in position for the lucky dog to get back on the lead lap here, but struggling on this new team with Richard Childress Racing for it now. He's done well up until this point.
Oh, yeah, he's been really good all year long. He may have started, and currently, as far as the points position, he was 2nd coming in here. He's wound up 3rd now. But he is, like I say, 19th. This race, and I think Darrell Walton pointed it out, it's a long ways from being over, so you got to battle all the way to the end. The conditions today are not favorable, but I think Shane Wilson, along with Clint Boyer, I think they can make the right kind of adjustment. You see that car bobble right there coming up off the corner, so they're still fighting a handling issue, but they still got a long ways to go. We've still got over 134 laps to go.
Stewart Haas Racing, Tony doing his part, but Ryan Newman, who finished, as we look at the battle for second place.
No battle to it. Basically, he just went, he said, adios, amigo. I'm going up to the front here. Tony Stewart went right by Matt Kenseth.
Tony Stewart led 12 laps earlier in the race, comes in on a roll. Now, Ryan Newman finished in the top 10 in the last 2 races this season, but a little bit off in this race today. Finished 4th last year in the same event at Texas.
Well, I think we're looking at these guys trying to get on track. It was good to see that they were able to get their short track program going. I know that Tony Gibson, the crew chief on there, they've done a lot of testing on those types of racetracks. There's not many places you can go and test, 1.5 mile racetracks anymore because of the restrictions that NASCAR's put on everybody. So I look for this team to maybe continue to struggle places like this until they get a few more races under their belt and see if they can come up with the right combination for Ryan.
From your AT&T phone, you can text the car number for the pit crew that you think will be the fastest and most valuable in the race at 2258. The AT&T Fastest Pit Crew of the Year award delivered by AT&T, the nation's fastest 3G network.
Thanks, Chris. You saw Reed Sorensen go to the garage area with fuel pressure problems. Jamie McMurray repairing the transmission in the garage. And Marcus Ambrose sounded like he was down to 7 cylinders. He initially reported throttle linkage problem. They now believe it is the carburetor, and they may have to take him to the garage to change it.
He's going to try to hang on, though, I think, because right now he's the first car 1 lap down. Clint Boyer, that Chris was talking about, is actually a little ways behind this 47 car. What they're hoping for so diligently and desperately is they need a caution. Then they can do this repair work on the caution, but it looks like it's getting slower and slower.
Well, just remember at Bristol, he was down a little bit of a cylinder, 1 or 2 maybe, and he still finished the top 10, so he can kind of hang in here for a little while and see what happens.
Now, Martin Truex Jr. in the 1 car, he hit the pit road, but I think this is starting that cycle of green flag stops again. Martin Truex Jr., the 1, they've always been one of the first cars to come to pit road, as well as we know Matt Kenseth in the 17, they too have been.
Only 2 cautions so far today, the fewest ever at this track, 5 last fall. 9 of the 16 races here have seen less than 10 caution flags. And here comes Matt Kenseth for his stop. Matt.
And Mike, this team trying to get back on track like their first 2 races of the year. Kenseth said, the only thing I really need is to turn a little better in the center of the corner. And if you can fix my loose on entry, we'll be pretty stout. Going to work on the left side. Solid stop so far by the 17 guys. Lugs are on, and he is away.
Now, this is still a 2-stop race. I say that with a little bit of hesitation because, as you talked about at the top of the show, Carl Edwards did run about 65 laps to win this race in November, but this set of green flag stops coming roughly with about 125 to 128 laps to go.
So far, no other takers in the pit lane. As we cross through 206 laps, 128 to go. Actually, Edwards ran 69 laps on 1 tank of fuel. So if anybody's getting that kind of mileage, it might possibly be a one-stop race.
Well,
we'll
depends.
see.
Yeah, it just depends on how the race shakes out, obviously. But he did that by slowing down to almost a crawl before that race was over with. He was having to back off the throttle. Everybody was passing him, but he had enough fuel to make it. That's how you save gas.
Tell you what, who's not backing off the throttle is Kurt Busch in that 2 car. This is a battle for 4th position with David Reagan in this 6 car.
That 2 just keeps on nipping away. It's got that look, too. It's got that high line like he had at Atlanta. I think this is the guy that is going to be somebody they're going to have to deal with before the day's over with.
Number of cars getting very loose off turn number 4, but that Blue Deuce is not one of them. Here comes Kenseth on fresh tires, and Reagan lets him go. David Gilliland and Robbie Gordon come to pit road, and we expect Greg Biffle, and here he comes. Off turn 4, brings it down to the apron and to pit road speed.
So much can be gained or lost how you get through 3 and 4 getting on the pit road. The pit stop's important, Krista, but getting there is important too.
Absolutely, Larry Mack. Back on lap 97, they took a half pound out of the left rear. Now they're going to put that air back in the left rear. Also a slight adjustment on the right rear of the car. Jackman Rodney Fetters has his crew jacked up. They know this could be the money stop for their race.
Tony Stewart becomes the leader for the 3rd time today as John Andretti and Kevin Harvick pit. Both of them are laps down.
Biffle was really able to hustle his car on the pit road because there was no one around him. He didn't have to worry about getting run over from behind. He could really use the track and come in hot.
Boy, so did Clint Boyer come in hot, and he almost got run over by Carl Edwards as he tried to whoa up along with Montoya and Casey Kane. Matt?
Carl Edwards still battling that loose condition. He says just way too free. He'd love to run the top. He feels like he could really pick up some speed up there, but he just can't do it. Chassis adjustment, air pressure adjustment for the 99 of Edwards. A little bit of time lost on that left front. You can see the lugs have fallen off, putting them on by hand. A lot of time lost here on pit road for Edwards.
Stremme is in along with Hamlin and Montoya. Here comes Elliott Sadler.
The 99 car seems to have an extraordinary amount of trouble in the pits. Every week they seem to have a bad pit stop.
Now Jeff Burton is in among the top 10 cars, and here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. along with Casey Mears, Ryan Newman, and Brian Vickers. Dick?
Now, Junior said this time the car has been really tight, and I've been listening to him all day, Mike, and there are just times when the car is loose, times when the car is tight, and they just can't seem to get it exactly where they want, just right in the middle. The crew has done a good job on pit road, though.
The 44 is stalled out in the middle of pit lane. And here's Steve with Tony Stewart's stop.
Tony Stewart settles it nicely, Mike. Good clean shot in. They're going to make a track bar adjustment. Tony's saying forward bite still good. They're going to try and fix that loose condition.
Jeff Gordon in. Coming down the pit lane. They have the 44 out of the way now. Krista?
Yeah, they were worried about that 44 car. Jeff Gordon's car much better now than it was to start the race. The only problem he has right now, it will not roll through the middle of the turn. They're making a track bar adjustment to help that. Dick?
Kurt Busch in on pit road. A lot of conversation between driver and crew chief about what to do to adjust this car. Darrell talked about trying to keep up with the racetrack. That's what they're working on. As the racetrack has had rubber buildup, Kurt Busch's car has not been as good as it was earlier in the event.
Thanks, Dick. Now, the problem on A.J. Allmendinger's car happened after he had made his pit stop. The car exited the pits and then stopped running. They're trying to push start it now.
But just remember, his teammate Reed Sorensen in the 43's in the garage area right now with fuel pressure problems. I almost wonder, are they encountering the same thing?
I don't think so, because it's all running out the tailpipe right now. So I think
they got plenty of fuel pressure. It's in the pipes.
That's right. Looks like
Smith
it's
has
a battery,
stopped.
maybe.
They have to push start Marcus Ambrose, and here comes Mark Martin, who is the race leader.
Come on down here.
With Kyle Busch behind him.
So that cycles through all of the pit stops. Jimmy Johnson, the 48 now, he has inherited the lead. He's actually, I think, may be the only car that has not stopped yet.
Along with Paul Menard. Steve?
And Mark Martin comes to a stop. His car has been pretty tight all day. They're going to to take a half pound of air out of the right rear tire and a half round in the right rear jack. So trying to fix that tight condition, 4 tires for Mark Martin, Matt.
And the 48 of Jimmy Johnson on his way to his pit stall. 1 box away, Mike Lingerfeld goes to work on that right front. Chassis adjustment also going in the back window. Jimmy said the car, middle of the way to near the end of that run, had gone back to the tight side. The same issue he was battling earlier, and he's away.
Now, I like what Paul Menard's team has done. They made an adjustment, took a lot of time on the last stop. They got him behind. They left him out, let him run long enough to lead a lap, get some 5 bonus points, and now he'll make his stop and cycle back through.
Now, one reason the 48 car went that far is, remember, they were one of the few cars that pitted under the last caution, because that caution came right after green flag pit stops.
And you're pretty sure that we're going to have to stop again.
Going to have to stop at least one more time. A bunch of them will have to stop twice.
Matt?
Menard slightly locked up the front brakes on his way into his pit box. An open stall, an opening right in front of his box. Wedge and track bar adjusted for Menard. Waiting for the 13 to go by. He was way too free, especially on entry.
Word on A.J. Allmendinger as they have changed ignition boxes on his car, trying to get him running again. And we've cycled back around to Greg Biffle and Matt Kenseth, 1.5 seconds apart. Back out in front here in Texas.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Verizon Wireless. Get the inside track from Penske Racing and race analysis. Plus highlights and high-speed action all on VCast from Verizon Wireless, America's largest, most reliable wireless network.
It's been quite a day for Dale Earnhardt Jr. He had to come in and serve that, not a penalty, but had to come in and have a missing lug nut put on. But as he came down pit road, most of the pits were full of cars a lap or more down. Now, there is the signboard waving.
He's got the lug nut.
But Junior doesn't see the signboard and drives right on by his pit, which is right dead on the start-finish line. So he had to come back again. They put the lug nut on. And then he just came back again.
Couldn't see a damn thing right there.
Just came back again to top off the tank.
Well, he and Denny Hamlin both, because that was with 110 laps to go. That makes 2 runs of 55 laps apiece, which is very doable.
Jeff Gordon did not pit. He is our leader. Neither did Mark Martin, who is the second-place car. Everyone else except Paul Menard, who is 1 lap down trying to get 1 back, did pit.
Now, if I had a car that was marginal, maybe I'll think, I'll stay out, lead a lap or 2 here, and see how things are going to go. That car has been good all day long. I would have done what everybody else did if it had been me. Stay on equal terms with everybody, not take a chance here like that.
The only thing, Darrell, Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin both were one of the last cars to pit under green. They pitted at lap 213 and 214, so they had about 5 or 6 laps on their tires.
Let's get some more on the curious case of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Here's Dick.
Yeah, curious, in fact, it is. Just a few moments ago, Earnhardt keyed his radio and asked the crew, did they shorten that pole? Now, that's the pole that holds the signboard that Junior's supposed to be able to see in order to be able to spot his pit.
All I know is a common denominator of having problems on pit road is Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the 88 team all year long.
And the signboard.
Yes.
Yeah. Dick, in his defense, taking a look at that signboard that sticks out with the 88 on it, it doesn't protrude very far out onto pit road, which at the time was full of cars 1 lap down.
Well, and if you look at his crew, they were setting on the wall. They were only going to put that lug nut back on, and the signboard's actually laying on the ground.
Jeff Gordon's tires, the right sides at least, have 6 more laps on them than everybody else, but he doesn't seem to mind. He's running away from the field. Now, this was a lap or 2 ago.
Hang on to her, Carl. This isn't Eldora, buddy.
But that's off turn 4. We've seen so many cars get tail happy off turn 4. The racetrack just falls out. There's Tony Stewart in a 14 car.
You know what? You're talking about only 6 or 7 or whatever more laps Jeff Gordon has on his tires. It's not that laps that hurts them. It's the heat cycle. It's getting them hot, cooling them off. That takes a lot of grip away from a tire sometimes.
Kind of like a driver's temper. You get it hot, you cool it off. You
try it. You definitely try it.
I'm going to tell you, a guy that's probably bending the floorboard and bending the steering wheel right now is that 18 car right behind him. He has to get one of his laps back the natural way, which would be to drive by that leader, and he's reeling Jeff Gordon in. That would put him only one lap down.
And he's plenty fast, Larry. I mean, if he could get back, I think he's got a good car, and he's fast enough.
But like Jeff Gordon, to get that track position, he also did not stop under that last caution flag.
Well, and Darrell has pointed it out so many times talking about the 24 car. Old car, new car, their car always runs better, a lot better when it's out front in clean air, maybe more than anybody else's car.
That certainly probably was a consideration as far as staying out.
There you see on the right-hand part of your screen, David Reagan in the 6, Tony Stewart in the 14 car. That's 4th and 5th. What a great run for David Reagan today, though.
Reagan, they got Reagan's and Biffle and Kenseth all right there.
Turn 2.
Oh, somebody goes
sideways
around.
Sam Hornish. We'll bring out the caution.
I don't think he's hit anything yet, has he?
Don't think so.
You're fired up.
Looks like the 96 car's got some damage, quite a bit of damage.
Now, Hornish had been battling with Clint Boyer in the 33.
Just got down there. When you get a car on the outside of you, man, it just is hard to hang on to them sometime. If you're a little loose, that car on the outside is just like a vacuum cleaner.
It just sucked the 77
Sucks
car
right around.
And Hornish was the 12th place car. He was having a good run.
But I don't believe he's going to have a lot of damage from this. Well, he may have. He got into the door.
Now, Bobby Labonte got the most damage. He's now taking his Ford to the garage.
I don't know how much damage he got. The 77 got off the 33. Not much, I don't think. Goes
minimal
around.
Damage on both of those.
Yeah, I don't think it hurt him any.
Boy, Ryan Newman, the 39, and Jimmy Johnson in that 48, they just barely squeaked by.
Now, there was a lot of smoke back there, and there's any number of ways Bobby Labonte could have gotten caught up. Let's have a look for that white number 96. There's Hornish. Oh,
ooh.
Wow.
Man, Bobby, I think Bobby must have run up on that accident and didn't see it happening. And when he did, he had to void the car in front of him and veered into the wall.
Wow. Matt?
Work in progress continues on the 48, Mike, of Jimmy Johnson. Chassis adjustment already completed. Still not getting that feel that he's looking for. 4 tires again this time. He took 4 on the previous stop. Dick?
Well, Junior's back in the pits. This time they're going to try to make a spring rubber change on that car. His principal complaint is that he simply cannot run the bottom of the racetrack as well as other people. He told his crew that he sees people go into the corner just incredibly hard, and their cars stick. His won't.
So caution for the 4th time today as Sam Hornish goes sideways in turn 2. Just 6 days to the return of Fox Saturday Baseball. Can't wait. Getting ready for the restart. 236 laps completed this time around. Sam Hornish stays on the lead lap. Paul Menard gets the free pass. It was Brian Vickers on the prior caution. So we will have 17 lead lap cars. Kyle Busch on the inside, still trying to get one of his 2 laps back. And David Rudeman, the first car 1 lap down as we go back to green.
Jeff Gordon, what a great restart in that 24 car. He'll clear everybody going through 1 and 2. But look at Kenseth in that 17 car getting a great run on the high side. That's your 2nd place car.
But you know what? You can't help but kind of pull for Jeff Gordon. A track that we've been coming to now. This is our 17th race here. A track that he hadn't won at. Hadn't won a race in over a year. You kind of like feel like it's a feel-good story if Jeff could pull off a win today.
Last week at Martinsville, he led most of the opening 1/3 of the race, but told his crew early on, with the adjustments we're going to be able to make, we're not going to be able to get there at the finish. And he was prophetic. He was right. He was not in a position to win. as the race wound down. Today, different story.
And Mike, we talked about Kyle Busch in the 18 car. The clock is running out on him to get one of his 2 laps back, and he's about got to drive by the leader. But remember, our pole sitter, David Rudiman, the reason he's a lap down, he had a problem on pit road where he pitted out of his box. He would love to see a caution because right now he's our first car that's 1 lap down. He would get that free pass.
The lucky dog would get the lucky dog.
There you go.
2 of those Hendrick cars in the top 5, Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin in 3rd.
Did you say, what was that name you said?
Mark Martin.
Hadn't heard much about Mark today. Been lingering, kind of lurking.
But just remember, Mark Martin and Jeff Gordon are on the same agenda. They have not been to pit road the last 2 cautions, running 1st and 3rd.
Look at David Stremmy's number 12, right, trying to bust through that pack. Harvick eases off the top lane, and Stremme gets a clear run. Here comes Dale Jr. in the 88 up. Ooh, Stremme about caught the wall trying to get away from that pack.
That's a tough, off of turn 2 back there. Man, that sometime a car will take off, and you wonder if it's going to stop before it hits the wall.
Now, Stremme is in 12th place on the lead lap.
But remember, David Stremme, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Juan Pablo Montoya, Jimmy Johnson, Denny Hamlin, and Sam Hornish and Brian Vickers, those lead lap cars, they're the only lead lap cars that pitted that last caution back on lap 233.
Dick?
Well, David Stremme is having a terrific day for himself, Mike. He started in the 32nd spot. He has picked up 20 positions today. Working with crew chief Roy McCauley, this has been Stremme's best year in Sprint Cup racing. He has consistently been luring his way to the front, heading toward the front of the pack again. Stremme currently 13th.
I know Logano is pretty far back. He's running 30th, but boy, he just pounded the wall off turn 2.
I think we'll have a look at it here.
Yep. Logano started 10th.
Watch him back here, right there, and boy, he gets it pretty good
with the right rear.
That turn 2 corner, that's one of the toughest corners to get up off of and keep it off the wall. Any place we go,
it just flattens out so quick from that 24 degrees of banking.
It dumps you. You're just coming out of the bank and it just dumps you off into the wall.
Looks like he may have to pit.
Yeah, he's got pretty serious damage.
And you saw right there his point situation. He's flirting with getting outside the top 35. Right now, he would be 35th. Mike, we do need to mention Jamie McMurray in the 26 car. They changed that transmission. They are back out on the racetrack 79 laps down. 2 cars in the garage area, Bobby Labonte and Marcos Ambrose. 2 cars officially out of the race, Mike Bliss and Dave Blaney.
But you know, Larry, I'm looking at that 20 car as it goes by. No tire smoke. And we know this whole car is pretty tough. We've seen this thing bounce off the wall and keep on going. He hasn't slowed down all that much, so maybe he's going to get away with it.
Now, Brad Keselowski in the 25 is a rookie, but he is not a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Only Logano and Scott Speed, who was not quick enough to qualify, are in the Revestis rookie program this year. Keselowski's on a limited schedule, can run 7 races or less this year and preserve his rookie eligibility.
Just looking at that 20 car, he has his hands full right now, Joey Logano. It stepped out on him the last time through 3 and 4 as David Stremme was going around him on the high side.
I think if he wasn't a rookie, he'd already be in the pits. But since he's a rookie, so I'm going to ride around, but not much.
Kurt Busch, David Reagan. Boy, have they been in close contact the whole race long.
It is a battle for the 7th position. Reagan gets the run off the high side down the back straightaway.
Kind of right where Reagan's been running, right along there, and 4th to 7th, 6th, right in there. The 2 car is kind of stalled out right where he is.
Biffle making his way back to the front, goes by Tony Stewart. That takes the 4th position away as we now have 88 laps to go. I think the big thing that we need to set up is I think we have cars out there that may be on an agenda where they only have to make 1 more pit stop. We have some cars we know that will have to make 2.
Well, the 2 fastest cars on the racetrack are the 24 and the 17. They're running pretty comparable lap times. Behind them, Martin, Biffle, Stewart, they're about a 10th to a 10th and a half off of these front 2 cars.
Well, playing the numbers, Larry, if you're Jeff Gordon, you and his team, Steve Letarte, you've got to think there's going to be 1 more caution because they need 2 more stops.
Yes, they do.
that checkered flag ready. I'm bringing it home.
Caution is out for the 5th time today. Robbie Gordon's engine went up in smoke as he came off turn 4 and down the front straightaway, much like Marcus Ambrose earlier. So that will set up pit stops. And here come the lead lap cars. David Rudiman will be the free pass. Here's Matt.
As they hit pit road, Edwards says his car's better. Johnson says his car's easier to drive. Matt Kenseth, who pulls into his box, slides to a stop, going for 4 tires. Basically, he says his car is too free at the beginning of the run. He can't arc it into the corner like he needs to. It does tighten up, but he loses too much time. There's a problem on the right side of the 17. The officials are telling him there's still a lug loose, putting the lug back on, losing a lot of time for Kenseth, Krista.
A wedge adjustment for Greg Biffle. Jeff Gordon, they were playing fuel mileage. They thought that could make it on 1. They had to come in. Their last pit was 213, an air pressure adjustment, Steve.
No changes for Mark Martin. His service is complete. Same for Tony Stewart. Stewart, they made a track bar adjustment. They went down on the track bar. He said, I need to get a better takeoff.
Have you seen a blast off pit road like that one, 3 abreast, 3 deep?
What we had, I think we had 2 cars. Remember, they just had pitted back on lap 233. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Brian Vickers, they went with the strategy, trying to get that track position, get the fuel in there, 2 right side tires only.
And something that you don't see every weekend, a little error, a little problem in the 17 pit.
True.
But they did what you got to do, what you should do. They fixed it before he left.
No harm, no foul.
So we're under caution with 82 laps to go.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is delivered by UPS. Watch David Reagan compete with the delivery drivers of UPS in Maximum Driver. Go to racing.ups.com.
So the cars 1 or more laps down will pit this time by. And now, Larry, we should have a 1 pit stop race for everybody.
No question. We got 81 laps to go. We should have to make our next stop, should we stay green, right around between lap 300 and 305. That'll get you to the end. So everybody's kind of even. Just we do want to stress that Dale Earnhardt Jr., Brian Vickers running 1st and 3rd right now seem to be 2 of the lead lap cars that elected to change right sides only.
But don't you think maybe they watched their teammate, Dale Jr. did, the 24 car, stayed out on 6-lap tires and was able to pull away. And again, I think it's that clean air being out front that seems to really be a big benefit.
Hadn't been that long ago that Brian Vickers, the 83 car, was the recipient of the free pass.
Now, no NASCAR on Fox next week. Brian is one of the folks going to join us down at Barrett-Jackson in West Palm Beach. Live coverage on Speed of that great collector car auction. All sold at no reserve. We're going to have some fun down there.
And you talked about baseball on Fox next Saturday.
Yeah.
The following Saturday, just nestle in, watch the baseball game, grab a hot dog, grab a Coke, sit right back down to pre-race, and the race from Phoenix will be on.
I like going to Phoenix. It's one of my favorite tracks. Good race. A little Saturday night showdown.
Our first Saturday night race.
Right.
.81 laps to go. Sweepers and blow dryers back out on track. They are still cleaning up from Robbie Gordon in the number 7, letting go in a big way on the right of your screen. That's why we're under caution.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by AT&T. Your world delivered. By McDonald's. By John Deere. Deer season is going on now. Visit your John Deere dealer today. And by Cheez-It, the big cheese. And time for our Cheez-It Bite of the Race.
All right, ready? Be ready. Green flag. Green flag.
Won't change directions, but when it does, it's evil. I'm going to tell you what, something's screwed up. Front tires aren't working. I don't even know what to tell you. It's so screwed up.
And that was our Cheez-It Bite of the race. Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading Jeff Gordon under caution here. 78 laps to go. A quick recap in case you tuned in a little bit late. Matt Kenseth taking the lead early as the pole sitter David Rudiman, and Kenseth leading a total of 55 laps. Rudiman, who had gone down a lap, just got back on the lead lap. Here, Kyle Busch, who won 2 of the last 4 races coming in. Getting into it with John Andretti, ends up in the pits. Later, a pit penalty cost him. Elliott Sadler, former Texas winner, getting loose. This is under green flag pit stops affecting the flow of the race. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. coming in for a lug nut, missing the cue, said he couldn't see much, and missing the pits. But he's hung in there most of the day, and now Dale Earnhardt Jr. has worked his way back to the top. Greg Biffle so far has led the most laps. 23 lead changes, the most this season.
Yeah, it's really wild how this race has kind of played out. You got Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading. Jeff Gordon started up on the front row. And what's amazing right now, some of these guys are kind of rolling the dice here late in the race, like Jr. and Brian Vickers. And you got a guy like Carl Edwards, who's 4th, who's won the last 2, won both races last year. But a lot of guys, you got Jimmy Johnson about 10th. He's right in the middle. Everybody's going to be charging right here at the end. Along with David Rudiman, you talked about, he's starting back about 18th, but our pole sitter's still in this race.
And Jeff Gordon, 47 races. Last time he's won, came in as the points leader. And Hammond's picks for the AT&T fastest pit crew, the 17 crew, the 14, and Jeff Gordon. Don't forget to vote for the AT&T fastest and most valuable pit crew of the year from your AT&T phone. Text the pit crew's car number to 2258 to vote.
I know somebody's going to say, why the 17? They've been solid all day. I know they made a mistake, but I look for these guys to rebound.
A rare miscue there. Let's rejoin Darrell, Larry, and Mike.
I'll be real interested to see how this turns out. You don't often see Tony Eury Jr. gamble and send Dale Jr. out with just 2 tires. And here he is.
He's a lot like his dad, meaning Dale Earnhardt Jr. His dad didn't want anything on any pit stop but 4 fresh tires.
But Darrell, he traded tires for track position.
And we'll see how that works out. It worked out great for Jeff Gordon. We'll see how it works out for Dale Jr. But a guy that really lucked out here now is the 00, our pole sitter, David Rudiman. Fighting to stay in the top 12 in points, he could actually move up a lot today based on the way everybody else is running.
Getting ready to go green with 76 laps to go at the line. Green flag.
And Rudiman's 18th, which is how many cars we have on the lead lap now with those 76 laps to go.
And he's 11th in the points, but Harvick's struggling.
Ooh,
what happened?
Boy, Kyle Busch lost the car, and in saving it, got up and into Junior.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is going to lose the lead.
Well, that didn't take long to decide.
So it's Vickers and Gordon, the 83 and 24 side by side for the lead. Advantage Gordon.
I'm like Darrell. I'm anxious to see. Remember, Jeff Gordon stayed out on 4th without changing tires at all. There was a lot of talk with this new softer left side tires that there was a little bit of hesitation in changing just right side tires.
Krista?
Well, like I said, Mike, if caution hadn't come out, the guys on the 24 thought they could make it with just one more stop. Jeff did tell Steve Letarte his car was pretty good before that last caution, and it's actually been really good at this track. This has not been Gordon's signature track. Steve Letarte told me this morning they thought their car was about a 10th to 15th place car. It was lacking speed. Right now, Jeff Gordon has plenty of it.
Gordon pulling away from Brian Vickers. Let's show you what happened down in turn 1 on the first lap of this run, just after they took the green flag. Watch the 18 of Kyle Busch.
Well, we've been talking about how aggressive Kyle Busch has been and needed to be to try to get one of those laps back, and you can see it just step out, shoves Junior up the racetrack.
I think what you also see is a lot of stay dry. Saw that dust and stay dry. Could have been a little bit of a residue on the racetrack right there. Got the car a little bit loose. See all that smoke?
2 inside, stay high there. That's the 18 for you. 2 inside, keep digging. 2 inside, 2 inside. 2 inside, 1 inside.
Now, Earnhardt Jr. has settled in back in the 7th position, but what that was a great opportunity for Kyle Busch in the 18 to get up there to 1 lap down, as well as Ryan Newman in that Army number 39 car. He's now on the tail end of the lead lap. Those guys, they want to see a caution so bad because that's your leader, Jeff Gordon, in that 24.
Darrell, I know how much you like the number 17. You won the Daytona 500 in car 17 on February 17th in your 17th try. Jeff Gordon has had a hard time getting the win finally at a couple of tracks. at Phoenix. We watched the battle for second. Carl Edwards around the outside of Brian Vickers for second. Jeff Gordon finally won at Phoenix in his 17th try. Guess how many races he's had at Texas?
17.
17 today. Trying for his first win here.
Yeah, I'm just on overdrive.
I saw Carl Edwards just take that second position away from Brian Vickers. That moves the 99 up into second behind Jeff Gordon.
Well, I got a pretty good feeling about the 24 car because he is certainly, early on he had a little problem. They got that thing fixed, and he's been the car to beat pretty much the whole race. But I got another guy that's kind of creeping in the picture back there. Don't overlook that 99 car who has a pretty good handle on this joint.
You can go to Ask.com and ask virtually anything, like what 4 foods is Texas famous for? While you're there, enter the NASCAR Challenge at Ask.com, official search engine of NASCAR.
Now, Jeff Gordon just got by Ryan Newman. That puts Newman back a lap down. But, boy, have we got a battle right here between Tony Stewart in the 14, Vickers in the 83, Reagan in the 6, and Mark Martin in the 5. That's a battle for third. This looks like that 2 right side tires only is not working out that good, at least for the 83 of Brian Vickers.
Well, it was a gamble, Larry. And it's like I said, if you got a car that maybe couldn't get up there, well, that was a good gamble, I believe. I think what we're going to, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
They're right behind Reagan. Mark Martin's part of that.
And right behind Jeff Gordon is the 99 car. I'm just going to point out he is coming in a hurry, Carl Edwards is, and we know he loves this joint.
So Mark's going to move up to 5th. Dale Jr. is 7th. Jimmy Johnson 8th. Kurt Busch, Jeff Burton, Greg Biffle. Still 18 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, what's amazing about Brian Vickers, he's losing spots, but his fastest lap of the race was 5 laps ago.
Yeah, I think that was a good gamble for him. I think it may have been all right for Dale Jr. if he hadn't had trouble down here with Kurt Busch.
Now Busch at number 2 just ran his fastest lap of the race, getting past Greg Biffle and Jeff Burton. Krista.
I like to see Greg Biffle trying to fight to stay in the top 10 right now. He had fallen back on that last pit stop because the glue did not set. They lost a couple of lug nuts, but it was not the crew's fault. They borrowed those tires from another team. So that was the reason for the slow pit stop and the reason Greg Biffle is having to fight his way back up front.
I think that's a great opportunity for us to just briefly explain that. How the lug nuts are held onto the wheel is just with a yellow weather strip adhesive, just like you would buy at the hardware store. And you have to glue those tires up so much in advance. A lot has to do with the weather. If it's going to be cold, you wait a little bit longer than you would if it's hot.
Yeah, and if you borrow any piece of equipment from another team, you better double check it.
Absolutely.
65 laps to go for Jeff Gordon. It has been a long time since he's been to victory lane. Year and a half. Not counting the Daytona 500 dual race that sets the field. He won that 150 miler this February.
Yeah, well, he's not counting that either.
Exactly.
That's not the win he's looking for.
Nope.
Now, Jeff Gordon has led 51 laps. Greg Biffle has led the most laps at 93, but the guy that has led 55 laps, the 17 car of Matt Kenseth, remember, he had that problem on the right side on that last pit stop. He is now trying to work his way back up there, restarted all the way back in about 17th position. He has now moved up to the 14th position. It's a little tough back there, as congested as it is.
Right now, the 2 fastest cars, Jeff Gordon just ran a 31.01, but Carl Edwards just ran a 30.89, and Tony Stewart ran a 30.70. So there's a couple of cars behind Jeff, a little bit quicker than he is.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. just had his hands full off of turn 4 in that 88 car.
Yeah, he got past Brian Vickers, and then so too did Jimmy Johnson. You're right. Cold temperatures, slick track, bright sun. Quite a combination. Well, Jr., he continues to test the envelope, doesn't he? Enough of that. Jimmy Johnson goes by on the bottom.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. goes to the high side. We were watching him earlier in the race. I don't think you could put a piece of paper between he and that outside wall, especially through 3 and 4.
But Larry, the 48 car, I mean, a little bit earlier in the race, would you have thought he may have a top 5 car?
No,
probably not. So again, they've done what they always do, made the best of a bad day.
That's the reason they've won 41 races and 3 consecutive championships.
9th place, Biffle and Vickers. And Jimmy Johnson completes the pass. His teammate Dale Jr. says not so fast.
Well, Jr. ran all, he had the high line, gets a lot of momentum down the straightaway, but Jimmy's taking the short way around the corner.
And now they reverse rolls through 1 and 2. Johnson in the 48 goes to the high line. You look how much it carries him down that back straightaway.
That's what Junior did to him off of 4 last time by.
Yeah, Junior's car, the 88's fast through the middle of the corner. Just depends on who gets the good run off the corner.
6th place race. It's entertaining to watch, but they're not really gaining any time on their teammate and race leader, Jeff Gordon. Now here comes David Stremme up for 11th in the number 12.
Stremme's been solid all day long, been hanging around the top 10. Had a great run.
Both or 2 of actually all of Roger Penske's 3 cars are on the lead lap, with Hornish in 16th.
And that's big for Hornish because remember, he was one of those cars that spun out in turn 2 not that long ago, back on lap 231.
And Mark, he just continues to do what Mark Martin does. You just don't talk about him a whole lot all day, but when you look at the rundown, he's in the top 10 every week. You know, without engine trouble, tire trouble, Mark Martin could easily be leading the points.
Absolutely.
He's run great. He's qualified well, and he's run great. He's just had some bad luck.
Had the engine failures at Auto Club Speedway in California and Las Vegas, and had the tire issue at Atlanta, and it was just barely inside the top 35 after race number 4. You can look right there. This would be a 10-point jump if he can just maintain right now.
And when you've had 3 bad races, and that's where you are in the points, that tells you you're running pretty good when you don't have trouble.
In fact, both of those cars battling, Mark Martin and David Reagan, both stand to jump 10 positions in the points today.
And just remember, it doesn't matter how far behind the leader of the points that you are. All that matters at the end of 26 races that you're in the top 12.
Well, Kurt Busch has had a strong day all afternoon for Roger Penske. Dick?
Well, he's got a... Kurt right now has a vibration on the right front. He thinks it's the right front. He also said it's getting looser, Mike.
So Kurt Busch in the 2, he definitely could use a caution here. We're getting real close. If we do get a caution, what would put everybody in a fuel window to make it to the end of the race is we've come into 55 laps to go.
Now David Reagan, we mentioned, can climb from 29th to 19th in the standings. Mark Martin from 27th to 17th, based on the positions everyone is running in right now with 56 laps to go.
I hear a duck quacking.
Would it be like a number 99 duck?
I hear a duck quacking out there somewhere.
6/10 behind the leader. Martin and Reagan side by side. This is for 4th place.
And on the right-hand side of your screen, the man that keeps marching to the front, Krista just talked about him a little while ago, Greg Biffle in that 16 car. The car that's led the most laps so far. He just drives that thing down in the corner. This is a Greg Biffle type of a racetrack.
You know, we always talk about how Kyle Busch and what a wheelman he is and how much fun he is to watch. Greg Biffle is in the same mold. I mean, he has always been a guy that lets it all hang out, no matter where you are or what he's driving.
We sat down with Marcos Ambrose, and he said when he was still over in Australia, in Tasmania, that he was kind of really like Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon, but who really intrigued him was Greg Biffle because of his driving style.
That's right.
That time by, the first 3 cars ran the same speed. 31, 52, all 3 of them.
And the 3 drivers who were quicker than them were Mark Martin, Jimmy Johnson, and Dale Jr.
There you see the top 3 cars right there. Jeff Gordon, Carl Edwards, Tony Stewart, not gaining or losing to each other.
Looks like to me the 99 gains a little on the 24 right through the center of the corner.
Steve, how about a 3rd place car, Tony Stewart?
I tell you what, Mike, he for his team all day. Just moments ago, he said, hey, that track bar adjustment we made, that was good. The car is the best it's been all day.
And that's music to a crew's ear. We're coming down to the end of the race, and they got the car the best it's been all day long. And there's Darian Grubb doing a great job. I'm proud of him. I'm going to buy that boy lunch.
How about this battle? David Stremme has caught Matt Kenseth and passes him. But look at the right side of Stremme's car.
It's kind of used up.
Oh, yeah.
These COTs, they love that.
12th place right there for car 12.
You can see David Stremme is about 10 seconds behind leader Jeff Gordon right now. We will have one more pit stop regardless, under caution or under green.
You know, these cars, this COT car reminds me of cars back in the day. I mean, they know, these drivers know they can lay them in the fence and it won't hurt them. So what do? They lay them in the fence. They lay them in the fence.
You know, Darrell, I'm seeing the tale of two tapes of those two cars that elected to go with two right side tires. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has kind of settled in that 88 car back in the 7th position, about 6 seconds behind leader Jeff Gordon. But on the other flip side, Brian Vickers in the 83 car, he's almost a half a lap down now to Jeff Gordon, all the way back in the 17th position. Worked out pretty good for one car, not for the other.
Yeah.
49 laps and one pit stop to go as Jeff Gordon leads the Samsung 500 in Texas. Jeff Gordon trying to get his first Sprint Cup win in over a year.
He's not won a race since October of 2007.
Oh, he's got a run. Here he comes.
It's too little too late.
Now we'll leave the short tracks and go to Texas.
Jeff Gordon leads by half a second over Carl Edwards, who has won the last two Sprint Cup races here. But David Reagan fell from 4th to 5th to 6th and is now on pit road with problems.
He's running hot. It looks like maybe he got that valence opening clogged up and it's overheated the engine.
Oh, reliable. It's not going to be so reliable now.
Yeah, the grill was covered with trash. He's not the only top 10 car to have problems. Dale Earnhardt Jr. scooted up the track down in turn number 2. You'll see the result here as he was battling Greg Biffle. Gets into the wall. Can't get off the wall. And had to come and make a green flag pit stop.
And he was running in the 7th position. So with making that green flag stop, he is now 1 lap down back in the 22nd position. Should be able to go to the end, though, without stopping again. But I'm going to tell you what.
Here comes the 99.
Here he comes. That 99 of Carl Edwards. Look at him go through the middle of the corner.
Something happened to Jeff Gordon over there off of 2. Had to really get up out of the throttle, and Carl got an incredible run down the back. I don't know if he's going to be able to make the pass yet or not, but he is there.
He will through 1 and 2, though. He'll take that thing to the bottom. Gordon's going to get a run on the high side, but look at Stewart in the 14 car. He wants some of this action.
You know, I think something happened to Jeff Gordon's car right there the last time by. Looked good that time off turn 2. What happened to the 24, Krista?
Well, he didn't say a word on that lap, but for about the last 20 laps, he said that his car has continually gotten looser. But on that lap, he did not say a word.
Well, I'm going to tell you what happened right there.
Block.
Carl Edwards got Jeff Gordon blocked behind the 20 car of Joey Logano.
He could have made the pass, Larry, but he was pinned down on the bottom. Carl was. There he goes. Carl was pinned on the bottom off 4, and the car got sideways with him, cost him some.
Going to try to come back outside. 24 is outside.
I tell you what, that 24 car, no matter what, gets a run off that corner.
Well, he's got that high. When you run that high line, you're going to have some straightaway speed. What Carl wants to do is try to clear him and slide up in front of him. Slide up in front of him now.
Line, clear the 24. You're all clear.
And that time, he got him pinned behind Max Pappas in the 13 car.
I think Carl will be able to pull away now because he just needed clean track to get going.
But, Mike, we're about 8 to 12 laps from what will be green flag pit stops. Think about all the mistakes we've had on pit road, the speeding penalties, David Rudiman pitting out of the box, the lug nut issue on the 17.
Carl had a problem on one of his pit stops.
David Reagan comes back in, so his fine run today is going to go for naught. He's already 2 laps down, and after overheating, he goes to the garage and will end up around 37.
But that 99 car of Carl Edwards, you just think about it. They understand this racetrack. They've got something figured out. He hasn't been all that great all day. He's been mediocre. But when it gets down near the end like this, they've got the right setup at the right time.
The only thing that has tripped up Carl Edwards all day was during the pre-race interview, and he lost his train of thought due to Jeff Hammond's wardrobe.
That's right. Wardrobe malfunction in the Hollywood Hotel.
But Darrell's right. He's just been solid. This is the first time he has really flexed his muscles on this 99 car.
Jeff Gordon's going to lose second place to Tony Stewart.
And I tell you, behind this battle right here, that 5 car, Mark Martin, is not that far behind.
I wouldn't count little man out just yet.
Mark Martin closing in. Steve?
Mike, Mark Martin just said his car is neutral, just a little bit on the free side. He likes it.
You know what? I love Mark Martin. I've known him for 100 years. He reminds me of Popeye. He got those big old guns on those arms, you know. He's going to pop a can of spinach here in a minute and look out. He's going for it.
You can see he's only about 2.5 seconds behind leader Carl Edwards. Jimmy Johnson has now cracked the top 5. So we've got Hendrick cars running 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Getting a report that Sam Hornish Jr. in the 13th position right now. The 77 car may have just got into the wall. This is what happened just about a lap ago.
Now he's a lead lap car. And Hornish, despite one spin, and that, that was pretty hard.
Hard on that right front when it climbed up on the wall like that.
Because that wasn't the safer barrier. That was the concrete wall. But Sam's done a good job today. He is in 13th, and give a call also to the car behind him, Paul Menard, who qualified 5th and has also stayed on the lead lap all day. Menard in 14th position.
So we're down to 16 cars on the lead lap, 33 laps to go, and we should see green flag stops coming up in the next 5 to 6 to 7 laps.
And I got to, with all the green flag racing we've done today, and as fast as you run here and as hard as you work, boy, now is when conditioning really is important. Well, I think that's one of the reasons you see Carl Edwards at the end of a tough, hard grind like this, all of a sudden steps up. He's still got plenty of energy left, and he's up on the wheel. I think it's why you see Mark Martin really strong at the end of races. Great physical condition.
Trouble in turn 2. One car up and into the wall. I believe it was David Stremme. It'll be hard to tell because the right side of his car was all skinned up anyway.
Yeah, he's slowing down, getting into turn 3. He's going to be coming up pit road. And he spins.
And that brings the caution out. Caution will be out. David Stremme was running in the 10th position.
And the 18 car gets one of his 2 laps back.
And Stremme held on to it. He was going to pit, but now he stays on track so he doesn't lose a lap as the pace car catches everybody up under caution. Tough break for Stremme because that's another car having a real good day on the lead lap. Just got up into the fence one too many times.
Well, this is good news for Kyle Busch, too, because he's fast. He stayed out in front of the leaders there, got 1 lap back. We can see Stremme here trying to hang on to that thing, but he's got a right rear tire down, apparently. Then she starts to step out on him. She wobbles, she bobbles, she spins.
He almost saved it about 4 times.
He did. Never did go all the way around. Yeah. But caution is out nonetheless.
And he is on the apron. So.
Well, what this does, this is where those pit crews for these lead lap cars, they got to put their work clothes on, because we know for the most part with what we've witnessed, everybody's going to change 4 tires. And so it's going to be on the shoulders of these pit crews.
You know who's happy right now? That's 17.
Yes, he is.
Because this is when they make up spots.
Redemption as well.
That's right.
This crew right here has been pretty solid all day long. That 14 Old Spice group of Tony Stewart.
Yeah, Tony had to lecture him a little bit there that one stop when he had a problem with the lug nut. Slow down.
Now
I'd rather lose a couple of tenths than to lose a couple of spots.
Pits were closed, but Stremme had to come in anyway with that flat tire down, so he'll start tail into the longest line. The red light is still up at the entrance of pit road. It has just turned to green, and here they'll come. Matt?
And Carl Edwards will lead them down to pit road. Edwards is keeping Bob Osborne abreast of his water temperature. It started to climb a little bit. There is a little bit of debris on the grills. Jimmy Johnson slides to a stop in his box. Jimmy Johnson told Chad Knaus we just need a slight adjustment for the short run. To Kristen.
The call at first was for wedge, but Jeff Gordon doubted that call. He said, no, it's going to make me too loose early in the run. So it was track bar instead for Jeff Gordon. Steve.
4 tires with just 1 can of gas. This could be your trophy stop for Tony Stewart. Small air pressure adjustment to help his forward bite. He's away.
Jeff Gordon's going to win the race off pit road. Jimmy Johnson also got a good launch from his crew to get out, and they both gained 2 positions.
And look at that 16 car, Greg Biffle. He's going to be a player. He gained 2 spots on pit road.
Do you see 99's number on there anywhere?
I don't. All types of trouble.
So we are set for the run to the finish. The Texas Stampede, 28 laps to go.
NASCAR Sprint Cup Racing on Fox is sponsored by Subway. Subway dollar footlong sidekicks are here. 21-ounce drinks at tasty size, just $1 each. By Lipitor. By Sprint, NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile. It'll change the way you experience the race. And by Lowe's. For all your home improvement needs, Lowe's, let's build something together.
27 laps to go, ready for the restart, and we have just had our NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile monster moment. The 24 team celebrates after their pit stop, gets Jeff Gordon out first. That was the imagery you saw as we went to break. There they are, justifiably proud of getting Jeff Gordon out first. But meanwhile, at the other end of pit road, here is Carl Edwards' reaction as he comes off the pit road. Front tire changer Corey Quick was slow on the right and left front, and that has mired Edwards in 11th place for this restart.
And with 26 laps to go, I just don't think you can get there.
I don't either. Not with that 24 up front and 2 guys that are after him right now, the 14 and the 48. They got fast cars too.
Carl Edwards trying to three-peat. The man on point, Jeff Gordon, trying to win for the first time in a point race in a year and a half.
Boy, Greg Biffle tried it on the high side. That 16 car had to get out of the throttle, and he has bottled them up. They're 4 wide going off into turn 3.
Biffle just got that ratted push off too over there and had to get up out of the gas. When he did, backed everybody up.
Yeah, right in front of Mark Martin, who was trying to get to the front.
Everybody except the leader, that is, and he is long gone.
There goes Jimmy Johnson. Then the 48 car just pulls underneath Tony Stewart in the 14. Stewart will try to fight back, but that 48 car, they've just gotten better and better.
Now 75 laps into this race, who would have believed that would be a second place car?
It didn't look like he was going to have a top 15 car.
Don't you know that's just got to aggravate everybody in the garage area the way they do that?
Absolutely. We saw the reaction of the crew after Jeff Gordon's pit stop.
Right there, talking about right there, yes.
That was Jeff Gordon's reaction.
Jeff Gordon knows when he's out front, he is hard to catch.
Well, he may be out front, but we got a battle for 4th between teammates of Matt Kenseth, Greg Biffle. Right now, they're bottled up behind Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the 88 car because they know Mark Martin in that 5 is a coming.
Clear low, clear low.
Dale Jr. a lap down after that green flag stop. Gets up and out of the way and leaves room for Mark Martin to try to close on those 2 Fords.
And the 17 bunch did get a little redemption on that pit stop that marred the 17 car. Matt Kenseth back in the field. Got him back up here in the top 5.
Guys, we're 311 laps into this race. Jeff Gordon and teammate Jimmy Johnson just ran their fastest lap of this race.
Well, not only the fastest lap, but Jeff Gordon just put 3/10 on the field in that 1 lap.
And that lap Jeff Gordon ran, that was the fastest lap anybody's run in this race so far.
There's Tony Stewart still 3rd. And it's a ways back to the Fords that are chasing him, about 2.5 seconds from Stewart back to Kenseth and Biffle.
And Mike, we still have almost 21 laps to go, but if things stay like they are right now, Jimmy Johnson would leave here second in points behind his teammate Jeff Gordon.
And we need to add Ryan Newman to the list of lead lap cars. He got the free pass on that caution at lap 305.
We have 17 cars on the lead lap with 21 laps to go. I mean, right now, Jeff Gordon, he's pretty much about in his own zip code.
Pretty hard. You just stay nice and smooth, and you're going to get him.
Chad Knaus telling Jimmy Johnson he's seeing the same score monitor we're seeing.
Always the cheerleader.
Well, yes and no. He's not really cheerleading him. He's just encouraging him. He's giving him good, solid information that will make Jimmy go harder on his own without getting up on the pit box and jumping up and down. I just like the way Chad has such a great balance of how to get his driver motivated.
That's the word.
Motivated.
We've had the intimidator. Now we got the motivator.
That's right.
And it is Chad Knaus. 3 straight championships and getting that car into a position to win every week.
Well, Chad's sitting down there right now saying, hey, buddy, we fixed you up. Now go do your job.
There you are. Well, he's got 19 laps left to get it done. And 1.4 seconds is the difference. Jeff Gordon to Jimmy Johnson. And if you think Jimmy's just going to let Jeff win one because he hasn't in a while, never mind.
Don't work that way.
There you see Steve Letarte, Jeff Gordon's crew chief. We know that Tony Eury Jr., Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s crew chief, has taken a lot of ridicule. If there is another crew chief on pit road that's taken a lot of ridicule, it would be Steve Letarte, crew chief for Jeff Gordon.
Tony Jr. needs to go to that crew chief school that Letarte went to over the winter.
Greg Biffle has passed his teammate Matt Kenseth. 4th place, but 6 seconds back of the lead.
Johnson's coming, Larry. That's 2/10 that time by.
Now Mark Martin's in 6th. Martin's had a good run all day, but he now finds himself 8 seconds back because of that. Oh, who's that up to the wall? Casey Kane
in the 9.
He almost got the wall, but he recovers. Now, he is the first car 1 lap down. The next car 1 lap down is Kyle Busch.
And he's right there behind him. That really hurt the 9. Lost a lot of momentum. And here comes Kyle. One more caution, and Kyle's back on the lead lap. He's running 18th, 19th right now.
Juan Montoya, 7th place. And a good, strong run all day. Texas, much like Atlanta, which is the track where he's seen the most success in this series.
But, Mike, he had a great run at Bristol.
True.
He's had good runs even outside of the mile-and-a-half racetracks. Came in here 14th in the points.
Jeff Burton down on the bottom. Has been in the top 10 all day. Burton's number 31, holding 8th place, which has been pretty much where he's been running most of the day. But now he's got a mirror full of Kurt Busch, the 9th place car.
Now, an update on the man that came in leading the race on that last caution, Carl Edwards in the 99 car. He's made up 1 spot to just inside the top 10. Problem, 11.5 seconds behind leader Jeff Gordon with now 15 laps to go.
And Larry, I just watched the 48 come off turn 4 that time. The car is a little bit sideways that time, like Jimmy is just using everything up right now. I don't think he's going to have enough to get to his teammate Jeff Gordon.
Well, he's not getting a lot of pressure from behind him because the distance in front of him to Jeff Gordon is the same distance behind him back to Tony Stewart.
But what another great weekend for Tony Stewart. Last weekend at Martinsville, 3rd, running 3rd right now. Looks pretty solid right there. Going to come home with another top 5 for that new team.
We talked about Carl Edwards just had moved into the top 10. Our pole sitter who had to pay a lap penalty, David Rudiman, for pitting outside of his box. He's back there just behind Carl Edwards in the 11th spot.
And David's going to stay in the top 12 in points, may even move up a little bit. Just proves that that team is a contender.
Now, if Rudiman's going to stay in that 11th position, he's going to have to hold off Denny Hamlin. They're running less than a second apart in 11th and 12th. Here's the view from Hamlin.
What's amazing is not far behind Rudiman and Hamlin is a guy that brought out the last caution, David Stremme, who's in the 12th car back in 13th. Stayed on the lead lap.
Stremme 16 seconds off the lead, and despite all the damage to the right side of that car, still running well. Clint Boyer's a lap down in the 33 in 20th.
Of all the children's cars today, though, Jeff Burton's been the really only one that's been solid. He's been in 8th place. I think he's running 8th place all day long. He's been right there from the get-go.
The rest of the lead lap cars are Brian Vickers, Paul Menard, and Ryan Newman. Sam Hornish 1 lap down. First car 1 lap down. Jeff Gordon 1.7 seconds ahead of teammate Jimmy Johnson.
And they just kind of even out each other. Jeff Gordon may run 1 lap a little quicker than Johnson. Johnson may run the next lap a little quicker than Gordon.
And let me correct, Hornish is the last car in the lead lap. Kyle Busch, now the first car 1 lap back. Hornish is 17th.
Yeah, I think right now Jeff Gordon is sitting there, and he's looking in front of him, but he's also just keeping that gap. He's looking in that mirror, keeping that gap between he and Jimmy Johnson pretty much the same, saving just a little bit in case he needs it here for a charge by Jimmy Johnson.
10 laps to go, 9 this time by. Jeff Gordon in his 17th start at Texas, looking for his first win here. Second week in a row that Gordon has started on the front row.
You know, we would have gone, when you went to Bristol Martinsville, you say, yeah, Jeff Gordon will win one of those. When we came to Texas, you'd say, yeah, Jeff Gordon doesn't have a chance at Texas because he hadn't won there before. But here he is today looking good, Krista.
Well, Jeff Gordon is part driver, part psychologist. Before he came in on that last pit stop talking about the conditions of his car, he said it sure would have helped if we had gotten off pit road first the last time. You heard how excited he was. You saw the crew's reaction. He basically willed his team to give him the lead.
Yeah, great motivation from driver to crew. Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson have finished 1-2 8 times in their career. Gordon has won 5 of those.
Look at these two cars. They look identical. When you watch, there's the 24 comes off turn 4. Right behind him is the 48. They got the same color numbers, pretty similar paint jobs. One got a black hood, one got a gray hood. But here's something I think we ought to think about, Larry. I've seen that 24 like a switch gets flipped every now and then.
We saw it earlier in the race.
We saw it earlier in the race, so he's not home free just yet.
Well, we've got 7 laps to go, but as I watch this 24 car close in on his first win since October of 2007, Jeff Gordon shared with us that over the last
right now, about middle ways.
Over the last 2 or 3 years, he's had some distractions. Now, we won't say they've been bad distractions. He got married. He became a father. He said it took him a while to find the balance of being a dad. He had some back problems. When we sat down with him a few weeks ago, there's no question. He's poised to win a championship, and there's no surprise to see him leading this race.
I'm working on it right now.
Gordon carrying the National Guard colors in that GED Plus program for folks to get a high school equivalency diploma through the National Guard.
I tell you, Max Pappas is not cutting him any favors. That really closed the gap considerably between Johnson and Gordon right there. And that time by, there was 0.3 difference in the leader back to Jimmy Johnson. I tell you, you don't seal the deal in one of these races until the white flag's out.
No, and that lead is now down to 0.8 of a second with 5 to go.
That slow traffic, that lap traffic really played havoc. Max Pappas didn't mean to get in the way, couldn't get out of the way.
Well, look at Gordon's car. It's starting to get a little loosey-goosey,
a little
Darryl.
twitchy.
He's having to toss and catch it
now.
I tell you, they're going to be pretty dadgun close when they come here to get the white flag in a few more laps.
0.6 of a second.
Yeah, he reeled him in 3.5 on that lap right there. We got 4 laps to go.
Half a second.
He's going to be there. He has got him in sight. You get a little draft here, so you're going to get a little suck down that back straightaway. Steve Letarte knows it, too. He's a little worried.
Since Jeff Gordon came to Sprint Cup racing, he's never gone 47 races without a win since 1993, and now it's half a second still.
But I think the good thing now is there's not a lot of traffic in their way. There's one more car up there, but I don't think they're going to catch it. And Jimmy Johnson, I think, he is trying to wheel his car up there because it's not handling as good as Jeff.
I think he has sucked everything out of it that's there. Jeff just gets off the corner so good. They're coming to 2 laps to go.
And Greg Biffle has caught Tony Stewart for 3rd as they come off turn number 4. There's that battle on the right side of your screen. Biffle coming hard, but he's going to run out of time to catch the leaders.
But I think Darryl's right. There's some fairly clean racetrack in front of Jeff Gordon in the 24 car. He gets that same good run off turn 2. Actually stretches it out just a little bit.
He's better off turn. Jeff Gordon's better off turn 2. But Jimmy Johnson is much better down here in 3 and 4. And they run a little bit different line down here. Jimmy runs a little higher, gets a lot of momentum, and really closes right there. But he isn't going to get there in time, although there is a couple of lap cars up here.
Kurt Busch has passed Jeff Burton. That's for the 8th position as we're on the final lap.
That 43 car is going to be right in Jeff Gordon's way. It's right where he likes to run. It's going to slow him down a little bit. I don't think Johnson's got enough speed. He's going to go high down here in 3 and 4. Try to get a lot of momentum off of turn 4. It's going to be too little too late.
But he packed her down into turn 3 and 4. But like you say, it's just not going to be enough.
17 tries at Texas. 17 is the lucky number for Jeff Gordon. He finally wins in Texas.
2 times 24. 40.
Pit crew, y'all better pat yourself on the back, boys. That's what we're talking about. That's the way to do it. Jeffrey, I'm proud of y'all day, man. You drove just a hell of a race.
Yes, he did.
You're behind us. He don't make it easy, does he? Where'd he come from? You beat them boys to a place like this. You've done it. Proud of this team. Proud of all the work y'all put in. Y'all deserve it.
Not since October 2007 at Lowe's Motor Speedway has Jeff Gordon had a chance to drive to victory lane in a NASCAR Sprint Cup point race. It's his first victory in his last 48 starts, his 14th win on a 1.5 mile track. And he remains 6th on the all-time list in wins, one back of 5th place with his 82nd career victory.
Cale Yarborough just ahead of him now.
It's the 176th Sprint Cup win for car owner Rick Hendrick.
But I'm going to tell you what, I think Steve Letarte and Jeff Gordon towed the tail. That race was partially won right there on pit road. That's his 10th win with crew chief Steve Letarte.
I'm anxious to see what kind of burnouts the old boy can do, because he hadn't done any for a while.
No. In fact, didn't he kind of used to be anti-burnout?
Yeah, he used to wouldn't do this. He thought it was
he's been saving this one up for a long time.
He thought it was mere child's play, but I think children like to play when they're having fun.
And I am sure she probably is present, but remember, Ella Sophia, his baby, has not been to victory lane in a points race, only at Daytona in a qualifying race.
She better be here.
You've been to that movie before.
I have, well, everything's bigger in Texas. Big Daddy is going to victory lane.
Big Daddy. He's the man.
Yes, you guys got me a win in Texas. I love you. Woo!
Jeff Gordon with Steve Letarte as crew chief cheering him on. Gordon said, Texas, one of those places on my radar. I want to turn things around and conquer it, and he did today. Welcome to the Lipitor post-race show and NASCAR on Fox as we come to you live from the Great American Speedway. And Jeff Gordon in victory lane, a feeling he hasn't had in a while, Steve Burns.
All smiles down here, Chris Myers. Jeff Gordon celebrating. Big smiles from the moment he pulled into victory lane. He's got that checkered flag. Jeff Gordon, you've had close calls here. You've had hard knocks here. What does it feel like to pull into victory lane on your 17th attempt at Texas?
Well, first I want to say hi to Ingrid and Ella at home, and I know she was saying go Papa go all day long, and I hate that they couldn't come with me this weekend, but how ironic is this, and I love you guys, how ironic is this that, we go on this streak and we end it here in Texas, a place that had just eluded us for so long. This was an incredible team effort. This whole year has been amazing. And what a great car. I mean, we've never had a car like this at Texas, and we finally had one and put it in position. I got to thank DuPont. I got to thank National Guard, GD Plus, great program that they have on board this weekend. And, of course, Pepsi, Quaker State, and I don't want to miss anybody else. Yeah,
it's been a while since you've been here, 47 races.
Too while. I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. Siemens, Freightliner, Bosch, Pure Later. I got to say hi to Rick. I don't think Rick's here, and I got you those 6 shooters, buddy. I got you those 6 shooters there, buddy.
Is that Rick?
Hey, boss. I lost him. We lost him. I don't know what happened.
Jeff, you talked about a great race car. What was the key to winning this race?
Well, we had to tune on it. I mean, we took off there. We were fast at the beginning, and I got the lead, got some bonus points, but it was really loose, and we started fading. And we made an adjustment. We went too far. I mean, Steve Letarte, I love this guy. He's a great crew chief, and he listens to me. And I was probably complaining too much, so he over-adjusted because of how I was talking, and we got tight. But, man, did he tune that thing back up. And the pit stops were amazing. This whole DuPont Chevrolet crew, National Guard, everybody, this has just been an incredible year that we're having. And how about my teammate, man? This guy just won't go away. I was like, where did he come from? It was unbelievable. It's so special to win here at Texas. I'm just thrilled. I can't wait to get home to Ingrid and Ella. And, man, what an amazing day it's been, and I'm just really thankful.
Enjoy the win, Jeff.
We will.
Let's go to
Trying
Chris
to get
Myers.
over Rick Hedrick on the telephone there. And the top two finishers, as Mark Martin congratulates Jeff, 1-2, and are 1-2 in points. Jeff Gordon with the lead over Jimmy Johnson, his teammate who he referenced moments ago. Let's check in with Matt.
Jimmy Johnson brings home the 48 car in the second position, all the way back to 18th. Was this the best example of never give up?
Yeah, never give up. You know, we worked hard on this race car, and it also shows how important track position is. Our car was off, wasn't the best, but we made it really, really good for the end. And then you get closer to the front, you pick up 3/4 of a second. So just very, very proud of this race team. Very proud to have Cool Schools, tools for Cool Schools, and whatever it's called. I can't even remember right now. My mind's in racing land. But thank you for being on the car. Thank you to Cobalt and Lowe's, and congratulations to Jeff Gordon. He worked hard for this one.
A 1-2 finish for Hendrick Motorsports here in Texas.
Tony Stewart with his second consecutive top 5. What was it like out there today?
It was fun when the track was at its warmest period of the day. We were on old tires. We were really fast, and when everybody got sliding around, that's when we were at our best. We just couldn't take off on the short run, but really proud of this Office Depot Old Spice team. They did a great job today, and we'll keep digging.
He keeps finishing in the top 5. A win is soon to happen.
Well, we talked at the start of this race how sometimes emotion is missing with drivers. Greg Biffle, I know you're full of emotion right now.
Yeah, I am. You know, it burns me up. This is the second time. We probably should have won a race. California, we had a really good car, and I got on the air hose in the pit box. And today, I'm not sure what happened. We lost a little bit of time on pit road, and we got all the way back to 4th. So that was a great run for the 3 and Ford Fusion. You know, we did really good on adjustments on the car today. Greg Irwin did. But just wish we'd have been, you know, had a chance to race them at the end. But I wanted to shout out everybody. Monday night, 9 o'clock, GregBiffle.com, doing a radio show. So check it out.
Problem in the pits, but he fought his way back to a top 5.
All right, problem in the pits for Carl Edwards, leaving Jeff Gordon the opportunity to finish first, followed by Jimmy Johnson. And Carl Edwards had it. That caution with 31 laps to go, losing 11 spots. Difficult. Changed the race completely.
It really did, Chris. And we always say that a lot of times these races are won or lost on pit road. Well, today, I think for Carl Edwards, you know, he definitely lost one, or at least the opportunity to battle Jeff Gordon at the end.
And Jeff put on his ascot for the occasion for Jeff Gordon's victory. Guys, your final thoughts?
Well, to really appreciate Jeff Gordon's win, you have to go back a year. He spun all by himself in this race last year and finished last. He's only finished last twice in his whole career, both at this racetrack. This was one he had to get. Today he did.
And let me ask you guys, how long ago, how many years ago, not that many years ago would it have been that when Jeff Gordon won, nobody would be happy?
It was kind of old news.
Jeff Gordon wins today, and everybody's happy, including his wife and daughter at home. And I thought it was a fantastic race. It was great to see Jimmy Johnson and Chad do their magic. A lot of guys got good finishes today, Larry, that really needed them.
Well, when we came on the air today, we talked about the unknowns of this 500-mile race at Texas. One thing that was not an unknown was the fact of how dominant that Roush Fenway had been at this place, winning 7 of 16 races. But the problem is those 3 teams in particular, the 99, the 16, and the 17, collectively, they led over 150 laps. They led almost half this race. But as Jeff Hammond just said, they didn't get beat on the racetrack. They got beat by mistakes on pit road. We just interviewed Greg Biffle. We certainly know the problems that Matt Kenseth had late in the race. Carl Edwards finally overcame it and then had another problem on pit road. So there's no question the downfall of the Roush Fenway group was not on the racetrack today, unfortunately, on pit road.
But did you notice Hammond? He now has no hat or cattle. So
he still has a scarf, though.
Hey, add to this a nice lead lap finish for Stremme, Menard, and Hornish. Good day for those 3, Chris.
Got a good day by you guys. A nice little Easter break. We look forward to Phoenix. Who knows what Jeff Hammond will have his Easter Bunny outfit. We'll have Jeff look ahead to Phoenix. We'll show you the final finishing order and the points when we continue live here in Texas.
I never thought it could happen to me.
heart attack at 53. I had felt fine. But turns out my cholesterol and other risk factors increased my chance of a heart attack. I should have done something. Now I trust my heart to Lipitor.
When diet and exercise are not enough, adding Lipitor may help. Unlike some other cholesterol-lowering medications, Lipitor is FDA approved to reduce the risk of heart attack, stroke, and certain kinds of heart surgeries in patients with several common risk factors or heart disease. Lipitor has been extensively studied with over 16 years of research. Lipitor is not for everyone, including people with liver problems and women who are nursing, pregnant, or may become pregnant. You need simple blood tests to check for liver problems. Tell your doctor if you are taking other medications or if you have any muscle pain or weakness. This may be a sign of a rare but serious side effect.
I was caught off guard, but maybe you could learn from my story.
Have a heart-to-heart with your doctor about your risk and about Lipitor.
Log on for all your official Digger and Friends gear today. To get toys, t-shirts, hats, and exclusive Digger collectibles, go to foxsports.com, keyword Digger, or dwstore.com and order now.
NASCAR on Fox, everything big in Texas, and a big win for Jeff Gordon. It had been 47 races. This guy's a four-time NASCAR champ, but he wanted this one, his first career win at this track, so only Homestead, Miami. A place that he has not won of those current racetracks. It's been a lot of fun. We had a record number of lead changes in this race. So after Martinsville, maybe things are heating up here. 28 lead changes. Jeff Gordon hangs on to win.
Well, the first thing is, this is a Texas tie. And, right. Yes, I believe we're going to wind up having a great battle, especially going into Phoenix next week, where Jimmy Johnson won there a year ago. And here Jeff Gordon, he has won at Phoenix, but he's got some momentum on his side right now, folks. Being the points leader, I think this guy, you got to watch out. He gets hot. He can stay hot for a while.
Well, his teammate who he fought off, Jimmy Johnson, has won the last 3 races in Phoenix. Jeff Gordon, the all-time leading money winner in NASCAR history, and he has the biggest points lead so far at this point of the season. As you check out, Clint Boyer took a little bit of a tumble as Jimmy moved into the second spot. Carl Edwards still no win this year, but hanging in there, and again that pit stop lost 11 spots, costing his
but
team.
I like David Rubin and Casey Kane right there. Casey 10th and David Rubin still hanging in there. Our pole sitter today battled back from being a lap down to get back up there and have a really decent finish, finished 11th.
Juan Pablo Montoya, his best finish this season at 7th, helping him in the points as well.
And look at Dale Jr. right there. He's still hanging tough right there back in 16th. Had a little bit of problem right there on pit road.
Jr., who led for a while, misfired on occasion and wound up 20th, but Jeff Gordon celebrating for the first time. He's got a cowboy hat. Did he take yours?
I was getting ready to say he can hit his target. Yes, he's got mine on. It looked good. We both named Jeff, so why not? Why would he be not wearing my hat?
All right. They used to talk about Dale Earnhardt, the late great. He could see the air in restrictor plate races. Jeff Gordon could see the wind. He figured it out. He and his crew chief made the adjustments. Coming up tonight on Fox Animation Domination. You saw Digger earlier in our pre-race show. Hang around for American Dad, King of the Hill, The Simpsons, Family Guy, and you'll laugh out loud. Saturday, Major League Baseball season starts tonight. Starts on Saturday for Fox. Red Sox, Angels, Astros, Cardinals. See Albert Pujols in action. Also the White Sox, the always entertaining manager, Ozzie Guillen. Note the start time, 4 Eastern, 1 Pacific. That's this Saturday. We're off racing for the Easter weekend, but then when we come back in 2 weeks, it's Saturday baseball, and then right into a NASCAR doubleheader and the Subway Fresh Fit 500, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, our pre-race show, and we'll no doubt be talking to Jeff Gordon.
Hey, there's a couple of happy guys right there. Jeff Gordon and Steve Letarte, his crew chief, got back to victory lane for the first time in a long while.
So Rick Hendrick connecting on the telephone after Jeff Gordon pulls into victory lane, fighting off Jimmy Johnson. 14 different leaders, the most this season, a number of lead changes that made it exciting. Happy birthday to Matt Yoakum and Steve Burns, celebrating this week. For Jeff Hammond, Chris Myers, our entire crew, have a great Easter weekend. We'll see you in Phoenix. Thanks for being a part of NASCAR on Fox.
Yeehaw!
Love it when it's forward, love it when it's fast, love it when the leader's car, the pack is moving past, love it when they're making lots and lots of noise, can't wait to hear the double say.
talking about right there. Yes. Yes, you guys got me a win in Texas. I love you. Woo!
Promotional considerations provided by